The intention of justice is to see that the guilty people are proven guilty and that the innocent are freed. Only we have a problem here.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are taking a look at this case from a psychological perspective.
Fun. Everybody was having a good time.
Does Brian Albert strike you as the kind of guy who is always having fun? No. And here's a news flash for this judge. Mental health professionals have solutions.
They made an arrest. I got the guy that killed Danny.
There's like a mix between sadness and anger because that's the moment for him when he really started to believe that his mother was involved.
The only corresponding records in the other databases are from previous days.
There is a huge psychological component to what was going on here. And according to this group, Brian Albert Jr. gets like the most celebrated birthday hour of anybody ever. Like every 30 seconds, someone's like, happy birthday! Right? She's trying to lump Colin into that earlier group.
Somebody jumps in as a journalist, draws attention to it, in a light that is not good for the prosecution. I mean, and there are serious allegations of corruption in the DA's office, in the state police.
Oh my God, it's not like his 21st birthday.
What happened outside was separate from anything that happened inside.
I'm going to go with the seahorse because certainly I've gotten a lot of love from everybody today, which feels nice.
You are very, very loved. And I can't believe we get to spend your birthday with you. Happy birthday!
Text messages read back as if he's the aggrieved party.
Hold on. Have each of you been called murderers?
Who wants to be the one to give Matt the bad news?
I wanted to prove or to demonstrate.
I don't know where the dog was. I didn't hear any barking. Her name is Sunny. She was named after Santino Corleone.
To the side, in the side yard.
Say hi, everybody. There's my Johnny. Hello. That's my Johnny.
Sunny barks if you walk by my window and sneeze. You're not really going to deny this, are you?
It's so weird. It's like the Inside Out, upside down. Narnia.
I would get at some point in a timely fashion and then turn it over.
Know if we had it enough, or we had it all, I should say.
Kill me.
Not having any observable or detectable electrical activity would be asystole.
Means death. 3 separate tab IDs. The thing he had to encourage her to do was not to testify.
You know, and Julia Albert responds to the text message from John, and she goes, "My biggest fear in life is ending up on Turtle Boy."
Stop it.
Oh, you never seen that? Oh, I gotta get you that. Let me.
No
oh
way.
yeah,
That's wild.
Yeah,
No
I gotta
way.
dig that up.
God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
People are terrified of him. They're absolutely terrified of him. And how do we know that? We know that from the mega motion. Just another day for me, right? Which means it was just not an ordinary day for somebody else. Just when you thought you were out, they pull you back.
Karen Reed plots. She fabricates a conspiracy.
I am just a person who likes to understand. That's going to increase the likelihood that we're going to take some action.
There she is.
Gotcha. Okay, so your sister.
My sister Jillian, yes.
Oh, it's funny. But then he's got part of his shirt untucked. His back pocket is kind of hanging out.
Testified that. So testified that. So.
And showing solidarity, you can see them there.
It's about getting justice for John O'Keefe. There clearly is an issue of integrity.
How dare they?
Justice for all. Only we have a problem here.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yay. This is the I Don't Belong Here show. and I am your host, Samantha Benigno. I am a behavioral scientist, a career psychotherapist, a sixth-year PhD candidate in clinical psychology, a master's level psychologist and counselor. And tonight, of course, we are here talking about the death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe, who would have turned 50 years old just a few days after me and just a few days ago. Welcome, everybody. Yay. Hi, guys. Can you believe it's a week until Christmas? Unbelievable. I can't believe it. It's like time is a crazy thing. It just flies by. It's wild, wild, wild. Happy Hanukkah to those of you that might be celebrating Hanukkah right now. And today was a crazy day. Welcome to everybody in the chat. You guys are the absolute best in the whole world. We are going to I started the show early tonight. My original plan was start at 10, but I had a couple of folks I was talking to about possibly coming on tonight. This is a late time for a lot of people, understandably. So we have a lot of interviews coming up, but probably not at this hour. However, Aussie Insider is in Australia. So it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 1 o'clock right now, I guess, for her. And so she is definitely going to be joining us at 10 o'clock tonight. And she and I have been talking since, we started interacting about the one issue that those people who insist that Karen Reed is responsible for the death of John O'Keefe. They keep going back to the car data, right? The telematics, the key cycles, blah, 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 blah. Judson Welcher's testimony, which is just shocking, like how anybody could cite that man's testimony or Trooper Paul or anybody else. Really, certainly, though, those guys stand out. It's like, if you're going to cite anyone, seems like those two, they may not be the guys that you'd want to refer to, right? Just like as like standard basic practice on principle. But what are you going to do, right? Here we are, and they insist on doing it over and over and over again. And so we're going to bring on somebody who knows a lot more about this topic than I certainly do. And Aussie Insider is so smart, right? I feel like we are kind of opposites in so many ways, which when we come together makes us, much smarter. It's like, we're like, she like just completes me in some way. And it's so great because I have absolutely no math skills. And she's like, oh, I love math. I'm like, what? What do you mean? So, and I get it, but it's awesome. It's just so awesome. I swear it's like she answered my prayers. It really, really is. So we're going to bring her on at 10 to discuss that. And feel like there's so much going on in the world, right? I mean, wow, it's like a crazy world we live in. It really is. And I know many of us are not on X or Twitter or whatever you call it. I am only really on there. So it's a long story. Long story short, I have a new account now with you guys from the I Don't Belong Here show. But I was on there many years ago. I worked in the background in sports talk radio as an assistant producer, like on the side, for 10 years. And so I would follow Twitter because it was a place where like we kind of had to. It was like sports broke that way. It still does. So it's a news breaking outlet for me. That's how I think about it. And so I kind of can't just like not be on there at all. I don't typically post. I don't make a practice of posting, but I will tell you there are some incredible content creators that are only on there. And some of them, I don't know if you've seen the We Believe song that I posted today. Oh my God, it's so good. If you haven't seen it, you have to at some point later tonight, tomorrow, you got to check it out. It's amazing. And there's just a lot of really good content creators and particularly people that are working hard on who killed John, right? So there's some good stuff out there. And we're going to talk about a lot of that tonight. If we had more time, I could spend hours on this topic, but we don't. And so I do have a Facebook account. Absolutely. You can find me easily there. Just my name, type in Samantha Benigno. I'm there. You can find me easily. I've had that for like 1,000 years, but I just don't have time to post on social media. I just don't. I have Instagram accounts. I never check them. I don't even know how to check them. That is how pathetic I am at Instagram. I know it's pathetic, but I just have no time. The problem in my life, you guys, is time. It is a very serious problem. It's a very serious problem, but it is what it is. This is the life I chose. I chose to take on way more than any one person could in a single day. And so here we are. But unfortunately, that means Instagram is just not a priority. But tonight, I want to definitely get to some of what I did find that, complements everything else that we've been talking about. And on top of that, you guys send me so much. You send me so much. Jennifer George sends $1.99. She says the song was amazing. It absolutely was. It absolutely was. It absolutely was. And I would have opened with it tonight if I knew we were going to have more time. If I didn't know that Aussie was coming on at 10, I would have played it because it's so good. So good. And as many of us are aware, right? Here's what's happening. Let me give you the little cliff notes in case you have missed it. So the highlights right now are the House defendants, which, let's just spell it out, the Brian and Nicole Albert, Jen and Matt McCabe, and Brian Higgins have waged this bizarre, I guess, fundraising campaign that we're going to get into a little bit. And as a result of that, they have this small group of friends, associates, I don't know, propaganda folks, network of folks who are hell-bent on communicating the message that they want them to. And I am wrestling personally with how to handle that. So we're going to get to that in just a little bit because that's important. And it is going to apparently continue to be a thorn in my side because they don't want to go away. But that's fine. It's more to talk about, I guess. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Of course, the very serious news. We've had a number of sort of shootings, these horrible events that have happened in the last week or less. And one of them, of course, we sort of have a very personal investment in now because Alan Jackson has become front and center in the horrible knife death of beloved producer and actor, director, Rob Reiner and his wife. So that is a really interesting story. It is developing, obviously, rapidly in real time. And I'm going to show you some clips in just a moment, kind of bring us all up to speed as to where we are in that case, which, of course, is going to be an epic ordeal that unfolds in front of us. But I will tell you, I'm going to be brutally honest. My first reaction, my mom, so I'm here like working on a video. I was working on the Adelson video yesterday. I was finishing that up. And my mom, a text comes in on my screen and she's like, did you see that Alan Jackson is representing Nick? And I knew, I think she said Nick Reiner, but it may have been Nick. Either way, I knew exactly who she was talking about. And I was like, oh my God. My first reaction was just like, oh, it's not good at all. Right? That was my first reaction. And because I was being totally selfish, and all I could think about was, well, now all these folks who were like, yep, see, he just represents murderers, have like this instant way in their mind to make this completely unrelated, irrelevant leap between this kid who they don't know anything about, of course, and none of us know anything about at this point, really nothing significant other than the cause and manner of death, which we're going to discuss in a moment, and that this person had mental health and addiction problems since he was a teenager. So, this is my first thought. Now, this is before I knew even what I know today, 24 hours later, about the case, right? All I knew was beloved Hollywood figure, slain in home. and Alan Jackson is now the defense attorney. That was it. That was the entirety of my thinking about it. And I thought, oh, this is not good. But now, 24 hours later, I think I am starting to feel a little differently about it, right? And I'm going to show you exactly why and why I feel differently, but also where we're at with it, right? At this point, I see some of you saying, he's a defense. Some people saying he's doing his job. Other people defending that he's giving, a person with challenges, mental health challenges, a chance. And, again, it was my first instinct. I have not kind of come or landed yet to how I feel about it. I was solely thinking about, Karen Reed, really. I mean, I was being entirely selfish about how people think about her. That was it. But now, like I said, I'm going to show you some clips, and I actually feel much better or differently about it, because I do think that the story is unfolding and we're getting more information. So let me show you kind of where I'm at, how I got there with that. And then we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about, the House defendants and this witness intimidation campaign that they are waging. And then we're going to dovetail into some evidence that I think is really important for us to take a look at just in time to welcome Aussie Insider. So this is very exciting stuff. And yes, I see you guys saying everyone deserves a defense. And I totally agree. And, it's a wonderful thing that we live in a country where people get to go through a trial regardless of what public opinion is right off the bat. But this case is interesting to me for a different reason also, which is trying to understand this young man, right? I guess he wasn't that young. I think he was 32, am I right? And Nick, right? I'm trying to understand him. I will also tell you, full disclosure, that many of my clients sort of fit this profile, or at least over the years have, right? Very successful families, those who struggled with addiction, adolescent or young adult males, almost not exclusively, but predominantly, and of means, right? So I get it. I know these rehabs that he's probably been to by name and well, and have worked at some of them. Some of them too. So, I get it. And as I'm learning more about the situation, that is starting to come into full view, right? So let's take a closer look at some of this, because I do think that the details in this case are definitely important. So let's bring it to the stage here. All right. So first things first, here's the little that we know, just to bring everybody up to speed. Because like I said, this story's kind of evolved pretty quickly over the last 24 hours. The medical examiner has ruled the death, obviously, a homicide with multiple sharp force injuries. I'm not sure how much of what we know to this point is official and how much is coming, secondhand from TMZ and other sources. So I'm careful to say anything I haven't seen from a legitimate source, such as this. I did hear as a rumor that they both had their throats slit. Now, I'm not trying to be, gross here. I don't want to get into the details. That is what I heard. I can't verify whether that is true or not. But let's see. So this was kind of yesterday at the Reiner home. This is just Alan Jackson showing up, answering the call. It was amazing how fast everybody was on this. This was like evolving in real time.
No appearance tonight. No appearance.
This was also yesterday. This is Alan Jackson, I think, leaving the courthouse, right?
Hey guys, out of the way so you can get through.
To represent Mr. Reiner. And his reason for not coming today, I know you talked about it on the elevator, but
we have Miss Little there too.
Every inmate has to be medically cleared before they can be transported to court. He has not been medically cleared. It's just a procedural issue.
Right. So he was supposed to be arraigned, I guess, yesterday, Nick Reiner, and he wasn't because he wasn't medically cleared. This is simply Alan Jackson letting the media know that is why there was no arraignment.
And where's Mr. Reiner now, currently?
MCJ,
Okay.
Men's County Jail.
Just in triple.
Yes, word matters. I saw that interview, and thanks for mentioning Dr. G. I saw the interview, and for those of you that haven't seen the interview between Rob and Nick Reiner, I also saw additional footage from that same tour. They had done a movie together a few years back, 2018, about sort of loosely or not so loosely based on their lives dealing with their son who is suffering from an addiction, going in and out of rehabs, being homeless. And I actually didn't see it, but it looks like a decent movie. And there was this kind of interview circuit that they did to, obviously to try to rep the movie. And yeah, it's odd. He comes across as very socially anxious, as uncomfortable in his own skin. And then when you add that next to his dad, who's just so comfortable, talking and so comfortable in that limelight, you could see that not only are there challenges in the way they interact, but also just how fundamentally different they are. I mean, they are fundamentally different human beings, which is really, it's just interesting, right? It's just interesting to see.
Confirm the murder case has not been filed yet.
I have not received any filing. And I don't believe the court has received any filing at this point.
Now, the other thing, well, we'll get there.
Your client at all?
This is quick. We're just going to go through a couple of these
further than what
quick
the
clips of Alan Jackson, and then we'll get up to speed. And actually, there was a lot of, all these lawyers, legal analysts being brought all over, Law and Crime, Court TV, wherever, and trying to make sense of what's going on, asking questions like, who's going to pay for Alan Jackson? Is he just doing this pro bono, or is he being paid? How would he be paid? This kid doesn't have any money. Those kinds of questions. And actually, oddly enough, well, you'll see in just a minute. Hold on. I'll tell you in a minute. I think it was Billy Bush that ultimately had what I think was probably the closest synopsis or basic summary of what might be going on here. So I wanted to highlight that also.
Here. That's the whole point. He's not here yet.
Can we expect a hearing tomorrow?
We'll be back day to day. The bailiff has indicated that the sheriff's department will take it on a day-by-day basis, and so hopefully he'll be cleared tomorrow. And
I couldn't help but think too how much easier it must be for Alan Jackson to be in his home court, right? To be in California, where you don't have to worry about a Judge Bev-like character constantly reminding you that you don't belong here, right? That this isn't, you're not in Kansas anymore, right?
the reason why we're not having it today. We'll be back day to day. The bailiff has indicated that the sheriff's department will take it on a day-by-day basis, and so hopefully he'll be cleared tomorrow, and we can get it.
Okay, let's hear. I'm gonna move a little forward. Here we go. All right, here we go. This was today.
Hopefully tomorrow.
How would you like to proceed today?
Your Honor, if we could, I would like to ask for a continuance of the arraignment. I want to get it clear at this juncture. It's too early. We've coordinated with counsel from the DA's office, and January 7th, with the court's permission, will be a convenient date for us to come back for potential arraignment.
Thank you. At this time, I'll take a waiver, speedy arraignment waiver from your client.
Thank you.
Mr. Reiner, you have a constitutional and statutory right to a speedy arraignment. Your counsel is requesting that your arraignment be continued to January 7, 2026. Do you waive your right to a speedy arraignment so that your arraignment can be heard on January 7, 2026? And does counsel join in the waiver?
I join, Your Honor.
The court finds that the defendant has made a knowing and intelligent waiver of his right to a speedy arraignment, and that his counsel joins in that waiver. Matter set January 7, 2026 for arraignment in this department. Bail to stand at no bail. Anything further on that case?
Not by the defense, Your Honor.
Anything further?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
January 7th, it appears they'll be back. And it turned out that he was not, none of us were able to see Nick Reiner today because he was made to show up in a suicide prevention vest. So there were people who were, releasing drawings immediately following the hearing. And this is the reason, however, why there were no cameras on him. We were not able to see him. The defense had asked, because he had to wear the suicide prevention vest, that they requested he not be filmed. A couple of other interesting details about this case. So California is an interesting state. Technically, it has the death penalty, but when Gavin Newsom came in, apparently he sort of tabled it. So nobody's on death row at the moment, but it's there. I'm not exactly sure legally. I'm sure there are many of you in the chat who likely know more about the legality of that. So technically, California does have a death penalty. However, it is currently not active. All right. But that's why, because it's a little confusing. Certain news outfits are reporting that are not mentioning the death penalty because it's the state of California. And others, if you saw the press conference with the prosecutor's office, they did mention the death penalty. So this is going to be an interesting case, if not potentially for that reason, if no other. So and I think there's one more thing on this. Let's see. Let me see if it's here. Yeah, there's one more thing I want to show you guys on this.
This is a devastating tragedy that has befallen the Reiner family. We all recognize that. Our hearts go out to the entire Reiner family. There are very, very complex and serious issues that are associated with this case. These need to be thoroughly but very carefully dealt with and examined and looked at and analyzed. We ask that during this process, you allow the system to move forward in the way that it was designed to move forward. Not with a rush to judgment, not with jumping to conclusions, but with restraint and with dignity and with the respect that this system and this process deserves and that the family deserves.
So this was interesting. So this was video that was found from literally hours before the murders occurred. So here we're going to see he's in a convenience store buying some liquor. And you can kind of tell that he looks a little anxious, looks a little paranoid. It's a very quick clip. I played it twice so you can kind of see that he looks anxious, jumpy. Remember that when people are moving around, if you're not sure, when somebody's moving a lot, right, it means that their mind is going. So if you're sitting there and you see somebody next to you and they're doing a lot of movement in place, it's definitely indicative of a lot of activity going on internally. And certainly it appears he looks a little paranoid almost. It's maybe a too strong a word to supplant on this moment here, but it's interesting. And then we're going to see him walking in just a minute. Yeah, I mean, he's an awkward guy. There's no question. No question. You're welcome. Is socially awkward, anxious. There's some other interesting notes from some of his interviews that I picked up on, just a lot of awareness of being from privilege and, like being a kid with money who is trying to, get by in the world. Even, I think the phrase he used, which I had never heard before, which I thought was really interesting. He said something about, what does it say about me that despite all the privilege, drugs seemed like the better option? And I thought, oh, that's an interesting. I never heard of that. I never heard that framed it in that way. Maybe because I can get very biological about drug addiction. Like you can know too much about a subject, I think. So at the level that I am aware and knowledgeable about substances and substance abuse, how much I know about addiction, the way it works in the brain and in the body, it's really not like a psychological thing. It takes over. So it doesn't matter if you have money or no money. If you're in the throes of an addiction, your psychology is going to follow the biology. And the interesting thing about addiction is that it has to. In other words, you've probably heard or know people who've struggled with substance use disorders. And of course, we talk about rationalizing and being in denial. And those are defense mechanisms, sure. But there are also ways that psychology will have to follow suit to biology once you're in the throes of an addiction. I don't know if that makes sense, but psychology and biology work together. They are two sides of the same coin. Psychology is just a mental phenomenon that is a biological phenomenon. But when you're in the throes of a physical chemical that takes over, in other words, it has its own agenda. And if you do it enough, it starts to change your chemistry so that it's controlling you. You're not in charge anymore. That's the whole point. That's what it means to be an addict. And I hate to even use that word, but for just ease of communication, when you say that somebody is an addict, what you are saying is that their biology has taken over their psychology. That's what the word means. It means that you are no longer driving the car. Like the drugs and alcohol are winning in that moment. That can change, right? You can take back the car, but if you are in the throes of an active heroin and cocaine addiction, which it appears he identifies as having, okay? He identifies as having a long-standing heroin, cocaine, and I guess marijuana addiction. And if those are your drugs of choice, if that's what you're identifying as, yes, you have a biological phenomenon that is hijacking your nervous system and also your psychology. So I'm not saying that's an excuse. That's just factually what is happening. Having said that, I think it's Billy Bush who had the most interesting and I think probably spot on take as to what's happening here. So let's hear what his thoughts were. I thought this was a very cute video that came out this morning.
And I think that will be revealed in the coming days. People will learn that. No answer for you on that at this moment, but I do have my own thought. Rob Reiner was a very progressive political guy. His views were liberal. California is a death penalty state, but when Gavin Newsom came to office in 2019, he put a moratorium on the death penalty. So, San Quentin still has death row. It just hasn't been active in a long time. So, look, Nick Reiner could get the death penalty. If they go through with it, who knows? But my feeling is I think someone within the family might have hired Alan Jackson. Maybe the siblings, Jake or Romy, maybe cousins, maybe, someone related or close friends because they know Rob is of the liberal view against the death penalty. And I think Rob also had been, and his wife, Michelle, had been complaining to friends, reportedly, in the last several weeks and months, that they felt Nick's mental state was deteriorating. And they were really, really worried about him. And I think the family knows that Nick is extremely mentally ill, right? And so I think they get Alan Jackson, and what they're going for is not to try and get him off. I think that would be impossible, but not guilty by reason of insanity, which means he would go to a state psychiatric hospital instead of a level 4 prison, And I think that's probably as sad and hurt and angry and all the emotions that come with losing your parents to their son and a knife. They see the mental illness in a loved one. And I think for some reason they can supersede that anger and try to get him some type of help or some type of, residency in a mental health hospital. And, that all that means is until he's mentally capable, he doesn't stand trial. I mean, if he heals in there, which no one does, and he becomes totally, then he has to go back in and, face the jury, face the court. So that's my thought. As awful and brutal and gruesome as these murders were, that it would be Rob and Michelle's wish that Nick get psychiatric help rather than throw him in this level 4 slammer where someone will knife him and kill him. You know, that's just my thought.
So I thought that was really insightful. Honestly, I thought that was really insightful. I think number one, it answered the question of who's probably paying for it. And it certainly makes sense given that we saw him walking into the home, the family home, right? So that fit for me. And yeah, I think this is right. I mean, many reports have come out that in the days and weeks immediately preceding this, they were very worried about him. His mental health had really declined and he was in really rough shape. He was publicly arguing with his parents. And when somebody's in this kind of state, I mean, it's the combination of both. I mean, he was obviously in active addiction. We see him on camera drinking alcohol. So he was actively using substances. Yeah. If you're actively using substances, there's no way, it's not possible to accurately assess your underlying mental health condition because you're physically altering the chemistry in your brain and body. So in order to really assess how psychiatric and what the diagnostic situation would look like without the drugs, that person would need substantial time away from substances. And because the body is organic, because we as organic beings change over time, our chemistry is not static. It's not something that we're just born with and then it stays that way every day after. We change. Because we change when we continue to use drugs and alcohol over time. Even if I had one mental health picture 20 years ago, if I keep drinking and using, and then I go back and get sober, it's not like I'll just go back to being the person I was when I was 17, 25 years later, right? In other words, there's no way to say what this person's mental health situation looks like unless or until there's a substantial period off of substances and the and is important, a recovery period. Because just stopping using drugs, particularly if you've been doing it for a very, very long time, which it seems like this young person has, that's a whole nother conversation and a very, very big one. But there's no question that this is a very, very, very complicated conversation. And like any complicated conversation, there's no right one answer, right? Every human body is different. Some of us have a absolute genetic predisposition to a substance use disorder. If you have the alcohol, what I call the alcohol gene, I've seen 17-year-olds who started drinking a year and a half ago be able to drink as much as another person who's 47 and who worked hard for 2 decades to get to that level of tolerance and alcoholism, right? So people that have the genetic predisposition for alcohol and alcohol, specifically an alcohol use disorder, it is a no joke illness. I mean, it is not playing. I mean, addiction is a no joke illness. Let's not pretend. It is not one that I wish on my worst enemy. It is a very, very, very bad problem to have. It just is. 50-50, whether you ever really overcome it. A third, probably, maybe not quite a third, but a lot of folks don't make it. I can't tell you the number of people I've known that are no longer on this planet way too early because of drugs and alcohol. So it's a horrible affliction to have. And yeah, everybody's different. I have seen, and you're going to probably think this is crazy, but I promise you, I have seen people's marijuana addiction be so bad that they are homeless. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. Again, everybody's biology is different. For somebody, weed is a thing that, like, how could you ever be addicted? And for somebody else, it is as addictive as heroin. And I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. Now, there are certain drugs, opioids is one of them, right? Nicotine, opioids, cocaine, I guess crack cocaine. These are inherently addictive substances, which means that, look, if we give these to anybody for any length of time, like if I just keep giving you, administering cocaine to you, if I keep doing it long enough, eventually you're going to become addicted to it. That's just how the body is with certain drugs. And others are less so. Others, it's more of a combination between psychology, biology, and genetics, right? So, like I said, it's a complicated discussion with addiction. And recovery, although it's something we glaze over, is an equally complicated discussion. And I'll be the first to tell you that in my career working with substance use disorders, I made a lot of mistakes, particularly early on when I thought I knew everything, had it all figured out. This is one drug, taking one drug for another. And whatever, all this nonsense that I thought I knew because you just naturally, we have biases. We come in with strong beliefs, like anything. And then, we get our asses handed to us and we have to learn the hard way, unfortunately. But people take drugs for a reason, right? I mean, a lot of the time, for many people, drugs kind of soften whatever underlying pain they are experiencing, both physically and psychologically and emotionally. And all of that has to be addressed, to be in recovery from them, to be a healed person on the other side. Right? So it's not like you can just stop and then, everybody's cured. Like, a person like Nick Reiner with this kind of substance use history, it doesn't, stopping using isn't going to inherently make life better tomorrow, right? That's just not how this goes. Because these are very powerful chemicals that completely change your physiology. I mean, they change you. They change you. Fundamentally, they change your inside chemistry and they make you a different person for when you're on them. And then if you keep taking them, when you're off of them too. So, KPT times 9043 says, my twin was addicted to everything over 17 years. He worked hard to get clean and stay clean. Wow. That's an amazing story. Congratulations. 27 years. Yeah, right. I mean, when you know people that have, that are in recovery and that have done it, it's just so inspiring. It's a truly inspiring story. Yeah. Caroline KAA says drugs, thugs, and homelessness have ruined a lot of California, or in other spots, it's been burned to the ground. Oh, it's a poorly run state. Well, I think we're finding, Caroline K, that a lot of states are poorly run, right? I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot of states. It's a lot. It's like our system is kind of fraying in some way. Justine 823 says, do you think Nick realizes he's unalived his parents? It's a great question. It's very hard to say. Probably he's learning that right now. So the thing is, I want to be clear that I'm not talking about responsibility with what I'm about to say. I'm not speaking on whether he was responsible or not because he was in an altered state. Obviously, if you choose to be in an altered state, you are continue to remain responsible for your behavior with whatever you do in that altered state, right? It's not like I can just take heroin and then go shoot somebody and be like, oh, I was high. It didn't matter, So having said that, though, yeah, I mean, what it means to take mood altering drugs is that you are physically a different person. You are altering your neurochemistry in such a way that changes who you are. It changes how you think. It changes how you feel. It changes what you believe. It's crazy. It changes what you believe. And it changes what you believe so distinctly that let's say that my drug or the drugs that I'm taking right now are cocaine. Every time I reintroduce cocaine, my brain changes in exactly the same way. It's a familiar experience. So my belief system will kind of fluctuate between who I am when I'm not taking cocaine and then who I am when I am. And then if I add alcohol, which most people that take cocaine are, then you have who you are when you're drinking, not drinking, and high on cocaine, who you are when you're on all three, who you are when you're coming off of drugs, right? So this gets really complicated and messy very quickly. And if you're the person with the experience, if it's you, if it's me, if I'm the one actively using drugs and alcohol routinely, let's say 3 or 4 days out of a 7-day week or more, then what happens is my experience, I don't realize it. And it takes people a very long time, if ever, to understand this is happening. You guys are like, this is like this super advanced understanding of addiction. What I'm about to tell you right now, it's like super advanced. The problem that they have is there's no continuity in their experience, because when they're high, they think they want to be, let's just say, for example, I want to go back to school and change careers when I'm drinking. But then when I sober up, I think that's the dumbest idea ever. And then when I'm on cocaine, I want to do something else completely different. In fact, the person that I'm in a relationship with, I only like them when I'm drinking and on cocaine. But when I'm sober, I can't even stand looking at them. But because I'm on cocaine and alcohol enough every weekend and I'm with them on the weekends, it doesn't really register that I don't like them. Right? You kind of start thinking, well, we're fighting all the time because of the alcohol. We're not fighting all the time because I only like them when I'm under the influence of alcohol. I mean, this gets really complicated and nuanced. And like I said, because of the fact that you're reintroducing the same physiological changes over and over again, people that are taking drugs don't realize that they are not the same when they are on and off them. I mean, it's wild. It's wild. And it's very unsettling when you've spent years of your life like this. It's a horrible way to live. I mean, I got to tell you, if I was giving out illnesses, this would not be one you would want to have. Honestly, it really isn't. It's a horrible way to live. I think fentanyl addicts keep using because they are scared of the withdrawal. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a combination. So if you're at the point where you're addicted to fentanyl, it's both. Like it's both. It's not even like fear of withdrawal. It's like it starts to come on and every instinct in your body is just to stop it. So you're not like consciously going like, oh geez, I'm scared. You're just like, go now, go get more, do whatever I have to. Doesn't matter what I'm supposed to be doing. If I have children, if I have a job, if I have a career, like all of that is contingent upon going to get more fentanyl, right? That's the problem with drugs like fentanyl. They have to be in your system or you will be in withdrawal, right? So yeah, I mean, it's both. It's like you're seeking being high and you're also seeking not being sick. They're happening at the same time. And again, that's what makes opioids particularly hard to stop, right? That's not the only thing, but those are some of them. Like they're intense drugs. These are serious drugs we're talking about. And then there are blackouts. Yeah. Yes, 100%. Good point. Yes, Aisha. 2370. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Nick may have definitely been in a blackout. I mean, I've even said when it comes to like Karen Reed that and everybody in that case that, there's at least a brownouts that happened for Karen. And yeah, of course, blackouts are very scary. They either don't remember clearly, or again, are in such a altered state of consciousness that it's so different from what they are when they're not, that they can't access it. Because like mood, how you feel is actually how you remember. That's why if you've ever been in a relationship, if you guys have ever been in a relationship with somebody who was in an active addiction and you thought like, what, like I'm with a crazy person, because they'll tell you one thing and it'll be completely opposing exactly what they said to you last night, right? And that's not because they are trying to be mean or even gaslight you consciously. It's because in one mood state, their entire experience is different from another, and they don't remember. Their memory is connected to the physical state that they're in. And so if you change your physiology in really big ways, you won't be able to remember like what happened last night, no matter what you were doing, right? It's crazy. No, it's crazy. It's addiction is crazy. It's a really, really crazy. VW Natural View says, I think my son is hooked on suffering. Yeah. Therefore, he can do withdrawals because he enjoys suffering. It's a great question. Is that a thing? Well, it depends on if you are looking at somebody and you're thinking they enjoy suffering, that's depression. That's what you're looking at. When you look at somebody you think they like suffering, that's a person that has depression. And depression is interesting because, again, exactly for the reason I'm saying, just like when you get in the habit of like brushing your teeth at night. So like, we know that behaviors are habitual. Like we know, oh, if you just get in the hang of doing something routinely, eventually it becomes a habit. Well, thoughts and mood is exactly the same way. So let's say that something tragic happens, like I'm 17 years old and my girlfriend breaks up with me and I'm devastated. All I do is I think about how devastated I am and how I'm never going to get over it, and then they don't love me anymore, and I'm such a bad person, and I'm so horrible. Well, if you keep waking up and thinking about that over and over again, eventually time goes on. But if you continue to stay in those thoughts and those feelings, then the depression becomes habituated. And once a feeling state is habituated, then the thoughts kind of can't get out. They can't move away from it. So it looks like we think they want to feel that way, but it's less about wanting and it's more about having no other option because they can't get out. It's like being stuck in a constant cycle of habitual emotional negativity and then psychological negativity and not realizing you're in it and you don't know anything else. So after a while, it just seems like that's the way life is. You have to be guided out of that. Not everybody, but most people have to be guided out. That's what therapists are for. That's why we exist in the world. I mean, not that I'm not laughing. I mean, most people don't know that, right? I mean, how would you know that? I mean, only reason I know is because I know, because that's what I made my whole life knowing. Ruth Ann 85 says, my ex-husband was an addict. Whew, meth and heroin. Oh my God. Is he still alive? That is quite the combo. Meth and heroin. Quite the combination. I don't know how many of you understand what methamphetamine does, but methamphetamine, a very, very small amount, will keep you awake for a very, very long time if it's real methamphetamine. And then when you add heroin, which is an opioid, oh boy, that combination is not gonna, it's not gonna get you anywhere where you want to be. That's for sure. And thank goodness for you that you are not still dealing with that, because that's a horrible situation. Oh, good. He finally got clean for our daughter. Oh, good for her. That's really hard to do. And actually, I got to tell you, good for him, because lots of families give ultimatums and it doesn't work, right? I mean, they have to really want to change for that kind of ultimatum to work. So congratulations to him, because that's quite the addiction to have, both methamphetamine and heroin. Heroin is a brutal drug, absolutely brutal. Yeah, and the problem with speedballing is that your heart, right? It's like you're really rolling the dice, especially over a certain age. Once you get to be about 35, if you are continuing to play with speedballs, it's basically like Russian roulette every time you do. I mean, it's like 50-50. Will my heart continue to beat in an hour from now? I don't know. Let's see. And especially drugs nowadays, because of the fentanyl and all these drugs, these designer drugs, they're not, say what you will about the OxyContin crisis. At the very least, the benefit, if you want to say there was a benefit, the benefit was that it was a pharmaceutical grade drug. So if somebody gave you a 20, 30, 40, 60, 80 milligram, or, towards the end there, 120 milligrams of OxyContin, it was always only ever going to be OxyContin. You were not going to get a 40 milligram Oxycontin pill and walk away with, God only knows how much fentanyl. That's the problem. When you're playing with drugs and you don't know what's in the drugs that you're playing with, that is a very serious death wish, especially today. Especially today. I mean, I do not, I seriously, I do not envy children of today, man. If you're fucking around with drugs today, it is a death wish. Bella Brat for you says, Samantha, thank you for all this conversation and information. I forget sometimes not everyone lived through the 80s to have firsthand knowledge of seeing. You know what? That's so true, right? I mean, the 80s, I feel like drugs were more in our face. I mean, I was too young really also in the 80s to like see crack cocaine addiction in my face, but I certainly, because of my interest in knowledge and awareness of drugs and alcohol, know about it. And you're right. And unfortunately, the good news is this. When you look at statistics and young people, because they do have a lot of other options today for stuff to do that maybe people in the 80s or even, any other time before now didn't have, they are not as interested or enticed to continue to move towards drugs. And thank God, because it's like you're really playing Russian roulette nowadays, right? These kids, like, they're buying ecstasy and they think they're going to like have a fun night with their friends, and they're winding up with fentanyl that kills them because they have no tolerance. And even if you do have a tolerance, it could still kill you. It's a terrible drug. It is not a good scene. It is not a good scene. I know, that's what I mean. Just say, Julie, yeah, the idea that people have been poisoned by accident is also terrifying. It happens all the time. And a lot of the time it's kids, it's, teenagers, again, who, they think that they are actually giving their friends a drug that they understand and that they know, and it's got something in it that they didn't know was in it. It's really, really scary. And you do that one time with fentanyl, one time, you're done. I mean, fentanyl is, fentanyl is really, really strong. It's just the nervous system can't hang with a drug like fentanyl for very long. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's a crazy world that we live in today. It really, really is. Ruth Ann said, my nephew OD'd in 2020 when he knocked out a tooth playing hockey. And a friend gave him a pain pill laced with fentanyl. Oh my God. He was almost 25, my sister's only child. Oh my God. I'm so sorry to hear that, Ruth Ann. That's exactly the nightmare that I'm talking about. And I'm so sorry for your sister. I get it. I really do. Like, that's why I don't work with addiction anymore. Like, after I know way more people that have this problem than I will ever need to know anymore. And it's devastating. It's painful. It's devastating. And I will also tell you, for those of you that think, well, I just drink, it's not, alcohol. It's just alcohol. So it's not fentanyl. The only thing that I would say to you there is that because alcohol is something that's socially acceptable, it can take a lot longer for people that have an alcohol problem to admit it and to want to change it. Whereas if you're, if you're shooting heroin, if you're even taking heroin, you have a problem. You may not want to fix it, but you have one. And most people who mess with drugs like that, whether fentanyl is a thing or not, you're not going to make it past 28 years old. 28, you are already in the top like 10% of people who take drugs like that and make it past that age. So you have a choice to make. You have to come to a moment of like, all right, am I going to die or am I going to change my life? But alcohol is not like that, right? So I've had so many friends who either are still actively drinking say to me years and years ago, oh, I'm just so glad that I never got into drugs. And I remember looking at them going, I didn't say it at the time, but like, yeah, you think that, but I'm 27 years old and I'm not fucking with drugs and alcohol anymore. And you are. So you can say what you want, but and again, if you have a choice, don't do drugs are bad, right? They are. You're lucky if you make it out. You are. But, you have to make a choice. You have to make a choice. And alcohol, it just takes a lot longer. It really takes a lot longer for the effects to get you. But they get you. They get you all the same. Let me tell you, alcohol will get you too. Just takes a long time. Congratulations. Congratulations. 18 years, no booze. That's awesome, Jay Cornish. That's, people don't get it. Like, it's a drug, and it is also, it's a drug, and it's powerful. Did you know that alcohol is the only drug that affects every organ system in the body? Like, it is no joke. It's a really toxic drug. Not that I'm saying heroin is go out and do that instead, but we tend to think of it as harmless because it's everywhere and most people drink. But it's really toxic to the body. It's really toxic to the body. What's really always interested me, I'll tell you this too, about drugs and alcohol. It's fascinating. Fascinating from an evolutionary perspective. The reason why people get addicted, you guys will think this is interesting, I think too, is because it's the body's way to keep you alive. Like, for example, with alcohol, it's such a serious poison that the only way that the body has, if you keep drinking over and over, the body says, well, you keep doing this and it's really poisonous. So we're going to have to change how we physiologically operate to try to make room for this toxin that you keep insisting upon introducing. And so that outcome, which is addiction, is actually like a biological fix, almost a correction that your biology is making to try to keep you alive longer, to try to save you, which I think is really interesting. So, I mean, on one hand, that's what makes addiction fascinating. It's like, it's the body's way of trying to reconcile what to do with this incredibly powerful toxin. But then, of course, when that happens, there's clearly all kinds of other challenges that also happen as a result of that shift, of that transition at the physiological level. It's fascinating. We the People 7312 says, no other country has a drug problem like the US. Just look at the chat. Seems we are all baffled. We've all battled substances. Yeah, it feels that way. It does feel that way. It's interesting. Like, I have worked with people from all over the world. And I can't tell, and I really don't know. I just really don't know. I don't know if they don't have the problem, or if they don't acknowledge it in the same way. I don't know, because I know I have worked with people from all over the world that have had substance abuse problems. But I also can tell you, you're right, that the cultures that they were in dealt with that conversation completely differently, for better or for worse, depending on where they were from. But yeah, I mean, anybody that's ever had a problem and that overcomes it, it's just like the life-changing gift of a lifetime, right? Yeah. Yeah. So James on 6181 says it's everywhere. I'm in Scotland. Yeah. So that's helpful to hear too, right? Because, this is US is a big country, and it's hard for us to sometimes, I think, get perspective too, as to like just the cultural differences, if that's a factor or whatever. Like I said, I've worked with people from all over the world, so I know that it's everywhere just from my own experience. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. So, and also, like, it always, remember this too, it always depends on your, like your perception, right? Like, or what it is you want to do with your life. If, some people, I don't want to say partying, but like drinking and having fun with their friends and being social and using alcohol and substances, however they do, is like what they want to be doing, right? And so that works. I certainly am not here to judge anybody's substance use, but for those that do have a problem and are able to overcome it, it's a huge deal. It really, really is. Congratulations to all of you that have had that experience. It's not an easy thing to do. That is for sure. Yes, and Aussie, that's a great question. So let's see. Well, while we're waiting, because I just realized I can't believe how time goes by so quickly. That's insane, first of all. And while we're waiting for Aussie, let me see. So what I want to do, let me just make sure that I sent her the right link. Yes. Okay. Just in case, I'll send it again. Give me 2 seconds. Up there. Look at that. Right on cue. Just as I was about to reach out, Aussie is here. So let's take this away, remove this from the studio. And we're going to take this off, remove. And then we are going to bring Aussie Insider into the conversation. Hello, Aussie. Can you hear me?
Hello, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I was a bit late to the party. Just busy with stuff in real life. You know how it goes.
Totally. And we got completely derailed anyway, so that worked out beautifully. We were
I
like,
was tuned in and listening actually.
oh, you were?
Yes.
Okay. So then you know exactly. We were supposed to be talking about something that was going to lead right up into our conversation, but nope, didn't happen.
That's all right. Do the lead in. I will wait patiently while you do the lead in.
Okay. Well, so so to that. Now, some of you, many of you probably know this. But let me show you this while Aussie is here. I'm going to fast forward through some of the things that I wanted to mention, but we'll get to, of course. It's not like this is going anywhere. So what I want to start with is, and also you'll appreciate this too. So I'm going to add this to our stage. All right. So what I am adding here is this absurd campaign that is now in front of us.
Those 2 places.
Yes.
All right.
Wait, there it is. All right. What I am calling the Testify campaign. Now, the Testify campaign consists of what precisely the House defendants are using as their platform to try and, I don't know, elevate their cause, if you will, to fundraise, to make money, I guess, in the name of something that feels bigger than just give us money because you like us and want us to have money. And that is that there's this big cause or champion for witness intimidation. Okay. And here's the thing. And I just can't get past this. First off, everybody involved in this little campaign is using exactly the same language. And it's so transparent. It's painful to even watch, right? Because it's like the same absurd language over and over and over again. Let's see if I can highlight what that looks like. I think it's coming up right here in this video. Well, before we get there, so obviously this is Brian Albert. And it's interesting, isn't it, that the language that I'm referencing is exactly the same language that Brian Albert uses routinely throughout his testimony, in his speaking out publicly after the Karen Reed trials ended, talking about, how they have been tortured and how nobody's defending and protecting them, right? And you remember Brian Albert's comments about how it was like a tailgate party outside of the courthouse with the Karen Reed supporters playing cornhole. Remember this? Okay. And the thing is that if you listen closely to the language that everybody in and around them is now sort of spewing back, it's very clearly all his language, right? It's coming directly from his voice. I mean, and the thing about Brian Albert that I'm learning is that he has this very particular sense of humor. It's very specific. It's very particular. It's like literally he thought it was hilarious to, in a court of law, talk about how he was butt dialing while having sex with his wife. Like that was the insinuation that he was trying to make on the witness stand. And we all know that these two, let's be real, haven't had sex in probably over a decade, right? So we know that is just fundamentally unlikely at best, number one. But number two, like, we also know that they weren't having sex that night because, a man had just died on their watch. So the whole thing is absurd. And you can see that he's almost mocking you to your face. This is like what he does. I'm only bringing that example up because it's an easy one. And he does it right in the middle of the courtroom. Right. And it's like he comes across with this. God, it's like hard to even put your fingers on it. But when you see it, you know that he's mocking us or you or whoever he's talking to or about. And that's like who he is. I mean, this is who he is. Well, it just so happens that this whole like witness intimidation testify campaign that he's on has that exact same sarcastic, like absurd undertone where he's mocking you right to your face. Because it's very clear that there is no problem in this country with people intimidating witnesses. There's no problem in particular, even with Brian Albert being intimidated not to testify. Because you tell me, does this guy right there, this guy who was the head of an elite task force for the Boston Police Department, that's him there, right? He was handpicked to lead his own department, who he could pick whoever he wanted to be a part of. Does he look like a guy who was going to be intimidated not to testify by anyone ever? Like, seriously. And do you think he wants people to think that about him? Right? So it's just like a big joke.
Sergeant Albert cut his teeth as a Marine in Operation Desert Storm. He views his work back in Boston as equally important.
This is the guy we're talking about, just to be clear. This is him.
And he knows it's just as dangerous.
In order to make the cases on the suspects who are selling drugs, you have to have undercover police officers actually going out, posing as buyers.
Right. So that's the guy. Okay. This is the guy who wants us to believe that he's representing a campaign of people who are standing up against those who are intimidating witnesses. I just want to make it clear that that's what's happening because it's so absurd and it's so laughable. And he's doing it just openly and mockingly. Like it's just kind of what he does, I guess. I guess this is just who he is, part of his character. But what makes the whole thing fine, and we expect that from him, what makes the whole thing exponentially worse is now he has, I guess, enlisted a group of children. No, I'm sorry, a group of people to take up this cause for him. There's his billboard, thanks to Emily C. Oh, I don't know if Emily's here, but hi, Emily, if you are. This is something that Emily C. put on Twitter, and I thought it was amazing. It is a billboard that says testify, as though the Alberts are standing up for the concept that people need to testify. This is serious. This is a real billboard that he and his people thought they should spend money to put up. The fact that he does this so openly and with a straight face, it's like, I guess it's commendable on some level, right?
They seem to act like they haven't testified. We just did the pretend bit first. Like, we haven't actually done the full testify yet.
Right. How many times did they testify, by the way? Does it count if you testify in front of grand juries and to the feds too?
And in, I guess, the FBI interviews, etc.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the FBI was an actual grand jury too, right? Because they testified to the feds, and then there was an actual grand jury that was held that they had to, right?
Right.
So it's like...
So I'm just curious, the connection between the previous topic and this topic. I'm not sure if you're seeing it, but I have a little bit of lived experience, certainly not experience that you have, but lived experience with alcoholism and how that affects the personality. And there's this
so
there's
smart.
this childish side that comes through when they're sober. So you'll see it when they're drunk, obviously because they're drunk, but they don't realize that this child side of their personality carries through when they're sober, and this will carry on for many, many years, even after they have kicked the addiction. So is that something that you had noticed yourself?
That's an interesting point. He has a very specific brand of what you're talking about, I think. That's unique to him, but certainly immaturity. Yeah, of course. 100%. Ego, immaturity, like sort of this childish like way. It's almost like just like a deep insecurity that manifests as like a need to overcompensate with ego.
Right, and that's an interesting point too, because the people that I know that have alcohol addictions are insecure in themselves. It's part of the reason why they drink.
Of course.
So it's an interesting point that you raise there.
Oh, that's an interesting point that you raise. Like, that's been kind of a point of mine all along, that addiction is a part of this case in a huge way, or at least alcohol, abuse is a huge all over this. And this doesn't happen if alcohol is not a thing on that night, right?
Correct. Agreed.
100%. And taking that then a step further, right? The part about sort of like that defiance. So there's three, I think part of what you're also speaking, it's another layer too. It's not just that immaturity, it's defiance. And that is, so there's three personality traits that actually are kind of predisposed substance use disorders: defiance, entitlement, and impulsivity. And defiance is number 2. Right?
Absolutely. I'm going to let you speak on the finer details, because I've experienced it as someone looking on, whereas you actually have the actual experience. So I'm just a student on this subject.
You're saying like a being with somebody who is defiant.
Right. But I also went to classes, I guess you could call it, for people who support alcoholics. Like, how do you get through supporting someone who has a drinking problem? But obviously I gave up and got a divorce in the end, but but I did do extensive classes where they tried to teach me these things in those classes, like about that immaturity that shows through when they're sober. It carries through when they're sober. So some of these instruments aren't necessarily mine, my own. I was taught them.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point too, right? Like defiance also, like it's also a fabric of insecurity. It's like a way to defend against feeling very vulnerable and feeling very like naked. And so defiance is also another way to like overcompensate. It's a defense against feeling like really insecure around other people.
I think the ticket to understanding these specific personalities in that situation on that night is to see them when they're drinking, because that's where you see that insecurity speaks its loudest. Does that make sense? Once they're already drunk, they're letting go. You see that raw side of what it is their insecurity. Like, I know for the person that I was dealing with, it was other men. His insecurity was other men, always.
Of course.
So when he would drink, he would go to bars and beat up other men, or he'd bring it home and there'd be a fight at home. I know that after we separated, he literally nearly demolished his parents' house, just like having a fight, and they I think he got in a car or something and nearly took out the whole wall that like supports the entire house.
As Brian Albert,
But you could always see it was triggered by another man in the room. So that was his insecurity, was other men. But I'm not saying that's for everybody, but for him, that was his insecurity.
That is such an interesting point, right? So that's funny, because Loophole Lawyer and I have been talking a lot. He's obviously very, very laser focused on Brian Higgins and his activity, his behavior that night, his motives, his thinking, all of that. And I think to your point, these folks were very intoxicated on that night, right?
I see a lot of my ex in Higgy's text and the way he talks, and you can see even his insecurities coming out in his testimony on the stand and his attitude on the stand. He's got the same insecurity.
Big time. And there's been a couple of other more interesting, I don't know if they're recent developments, but interesting sort of little nuggets that have stepped forward. For example, I didn't know, it was from one of these motions in limine from way back in like early 24 or even mid 2023, where Yannetti tells a story about how Proctor came to serve the whatever it's called, to try to hold the to tell him not to destroy his cell phone, and he left it on the counter at the police station at the Canton PD for Higgins. And apparently, like, Higgins berated him, screaming and yelling at him for doing it in front of everybody.
Lost the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do recall that, like, when it came out, they did have several hearings. But a lot of people didn't watch the pre-trial hearings because a lot of the information that we learned in pre-trial didn't come out during trial. They had their strategy, but through both trials, albeit a different strategy between each trial, but they stuck with their strategy through each of the trials. So much of the information we learned during pre-trial never did come out during trial. And it'll be interesting because I think a lot of it will during the civil case. Like, a lot of those things we followed are going to come out through the civil case. When we were sitting there banging on our desks going, why didn't they bring this up or bring that up? So,
and it's hard to find. Like, I have tried many times to just go back and look at those early motions, and they're not easy to find, like, because there's so much content on the internet already about this case. To go back and find something that was a motion with Yannetti leading the charge in, January of 2024 or even way before, it's not easy to find.
Right. That happens with most true crime cases that go international. It gets difficult. There's actually a group of people, they're like white hat hackers, that have a catch the flag event every year. I used to like getting involved in their outside of their competition investigations to help them collect information, but they focus on missing people, and then they given flags that are so when they catch a flag, it's like certain parts of the evidence that have shown up publicly or in documents or in the people's connections with each other or whatever. So that's what happens, is they'll focus on a missing person, and it's so public and become such a big thing that they can't get underneath all of the BS to find the actual information. So
wow, that's so important. I mean, that's one of the things I got to tell you that X has been so helpful for, is there's so many people that are like digging and digging and digging. But if you, like, I'll see something, and if I don't capture it immediately, I won't necessarily be able to find it again. And so you really have to, like, jump if you find something important and you want to keep it. It's crazy.
That's right. That's part of the trick, is getting the right information, because there's so much of it out there, but getting the actual information, getting the right bits.
You are so right. And that's actually what I wanted to start this conversation with. I was sort of like inching towards it. So in this, I don't want to platform these folks any more than just to mention that there is this group of females who have gotten together to try to support the House defendants, and they're going to have some impressive quote unquote guests like Carrie Roberts tomorrow or Friday night, and in January Chris Albert, which I love. I'm a huge supporter of. I just think more talking is better for all of us, so that's great. I'm a little shocked at how unprepared, maybe isn't the best word, but just maybe unaware, unprepared, unable to discern facts from not facts, things like that. But all of that is fine. What it has inspired, though, is a resurgence in discussion about the things that the folks who believe that or want to believe that Karen Reed was responsible for the death of John O'Keefe keep kind of grabbing onto and like throwing back out there. Oh, the telematics, the car data, the key cycles, the backing events. These things that are, I feel like they don't even hear what they're saying anymore. They're almost just these like buzz terms, right? They're not even really sure what they're saying.
I think that none of them actually have a very high education, like particularly where maths is concerned, because the reverse periods in Trooper Paul's. Hey, do you want me to bring that part up yet?
Yes, please do.
Yeah. So if you add up the distances traveled whilst the vehicle was in reverse from Trooper Paul's spreadsheets, you do not come to 62 feet. So, and it's simple addition. This isn't complex math. This is just find the reverse, the R reverse in his spreadsheet, and add up the distances traveled while it was in reverse. And you do not come up with 62 feet. In fact, you come up with 1,000 and something. I forget the actual figures, but I know it's over 1,000 feet.
When you told me that for the first time, I almost died. I couldn't even believe it. I thought it was hilarious.
Right. And so that tends to indicate that Trooper Paul either A is not, well, there's some issues with Trooper Paul claiming this is the data I pulled from the Lexus. Then when you pull the spreadsheet, the PDF for that exhibit, there is no data from the Lexus. Zero. Nothing came from the Lexus except for the periods where he was testing.
Wait a minute.
Nothing.
Say that again. What do you mean?
The PDF exhibit for the data downloaded from the Lexus is all zeroed out. It's all zeros. There's no data.
There's no data. Stop it.
There's this zero data. There's absolutely nothing collected from the Lexus except for when Trooper Paul got the vehicle. Now all of a sudden there's all this data. That's where he pulled that data from. And the way you can tell is because there was no freaking data.
So what is the data that Judd Welcher based his thinking on?
Trooper Paul's testing data. That's what
was.
Trooper Paul based his on as well. When you work out what the key cycles are, they're just a simple count. This is another thing again, basic maths. Can you not count backwards, like one digit at a time? Because I've got grandchildren who are in primary school or grade school, I think you guys call it, who can count backwards. Why can't these people count backwards? And if you count all of those key starts that even they claim Karen Reed did, they claim she pulled up, she did this, she did that. This is all in their testimony, what Karen's vehicle was doing. They're the ones who are clocking up the key cycles. So that none of that matches. So if you count backwards from Trooper Paul's, the key cycle, what's interesting is they actually have the key cycle numbers, but when you pull the exhibit, this is the actual download from the, so they plug this gadget into the OBDC2 port of the vehicle.
Okay.
And it downloads the data in hex format, and then you need a reader to be able to turn that into human readable format.
Yeah.
But the hex data is all zeroed out. So where did those key cycle numbers come from? If everything is 00000, that means there's no data there. Where did the key cycles come from? You can understand it being there from Trooper Paul's testing, because this is what I think, this is the sequence I think that happened, was before Trooper Paul got the vehicle, it was zeroed out by someone who's hacking all the data in this case. Whoever that is, I don't want to point fingers at anyone specifically. I don't know who it is, but my guess would be Colleen Crawford. Someone's hacking all the data. So they zeroed out. So the way you do that in the Lexus, and the thing is, these people that you're talking about, they put this all over X long before it came out in trial. Wait till you see that Karen Reed and Nathan, because he works for Lexus, and Nathan and Karen Reed zeroed out all the data. And so I went on a big mission to find out, how do you zero out the data like that? Like, how do you reset all of those chips in the system to zero them all out? Because there's so many of them. Like, I could conceptually see how you could snuff one chip. If you pull a chip and you rub your feet on the carpet while you're holding it, you can snuff the chip, right? It completely resets, flips all the ones and zeros. So a bit of static can do that, but that's one chip.
Yep.
They're not holding the entire car and scuffing their feet. You get what I'm saying?
Of course. Yeah.
So that was my first mission when they put that out on X, long before even trial 1, I think it was. I was like, what the hell are they talking about? So I looked into the key fob stuff. If you continuously press there's several functions for that. So for those who don't know, the Toyota Lexus, the model that Karen's got, it's got a button where you would normally put your key.
Yep.
So if you continuously press that button, it does several things. So many presses will reset your key fob so that your key fob's in sync with your car.
Yep.
So there's that feature. I can't remember the exact number of presses or length of time you press the button for, but there's that. There's also a number of those presses, resets. I can't remember all the details, but anyway, if you keep pressing past these other features, if you keep pressing, and I think it's something like 200 times you press the button, it resets all of the chips back to zero. So then I worked out, so they obviously know how it was reset before Trooper Paul got the car, and you can tell that Karen didn't do it herself because that key start where it was collected from Dighton actually does appear in the data.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
how do we know that? How can you tell that the key start from Dighton appears in the data?
Well, I don't. There is no way to tell because, like I said, the actual data that was downloaded from the OBDC2 port is blank. So I don't know. I can't see that in that report where that data was collected from the vehicle. So,
well, that's kind of been my question. So I'm so glad. I love when people that I speak with on this case have all of this perspective and knowledge from way before I got involved or know anything about it, because there is a lot of history that I think many of us don't know or don't know enough about that is really important and very helpful in understanding things that are happening now and before now, right? In the lead up till right now through the trials. And so I investigated the key cycles just in between trials very, very closely, just trying to do the basic thing you're talking about, just working the equation backwards. All right. If Trooper Paul's testing starts at the key cycle he claims, right? And then we do the math backwards, things don't add up, right? And they keep going back to this backing event and the 3-point turn. But my question repeatedly goes back, and this is kind of, I think, where I believe you landed ultimately, which is like, it feels like we don't have enough information. Something is missing. How do we know that Trooper Paul started his testing when he says he does, besides he tells us he did?
Right. So when you analyze the little bit of data that was there, you kind of get the idea it was either entirely his testing and it was all blanked before he got it. It was either that, or those other key cycles did exist, and the one they're zeroing in on is that reversing out of the driveway at Dighton. So not being someone who comes from a snow area, I didn't know this, but there's a specific way you get your vehicle out of a snowbank. Like they were snowed in up to the halfway up to the bonnet, kind of was a fair bit of snow. They were snowed in, but there's a certain way that you jiggle the car, let's say, and accelerate forward and rock it backwards. You rock it out of the snow, basically. That is possibly what they are looking at, and that 100 feet that was recorded was not actually the vehicle traveling anywhere, but the wheels still turning,
Right.
spinning in the snow. A lot of people pointed out some other things about that, but I think, was it Emily C? Someone actually slowed that part of the footage down where it was in Mr. Reed's driveway and you could see the tires spinning when they were trying to rocket out of that snow.
I
So-
saw that too. Yes, I've seen it too. Yes,
Mm,
definitely. Yeah, I mean, there's a number of different actual clips where we can see that Karen's tires are moving and the car isn't going anywhere, right? Because of the snow conditions. Either, I'm not sure if it's in, I think it's two different locations though, where we definitely see both the tow truck driver. There's an incident of that. There's an incident, I think, in the Ring video from Dighton, and then also in maybe even the One Meadows video where her brother's driving. I think there's a couple different times where we see instances of the tires moving and the car not going anywhere.
Correct. So there's all these different factors that we can't nail down, and this is why you have chain of custody and all these other things that should have gone on that didn't go on. But
absolutely.
So we've got all this movement that we know did happen prior to and after. So we don't know which one of those they honed in on. We don't even know if the data that they honed in on is real data. It could have just been cooked up by someone who decided, like, here you go, Trooper Paul, here's the numbers, go crunch them. We've got no proof where his data came from, or that it's not from CASAC. Like, we didn't ever see the OBDS report. That was never entered into evidence. What was entered was this one that I saw, which was all zeroed out. So there's nothing that matches Trooper Paul's data, that's for sure.
So where is Trooper Paul's? Was that entered into evidence, or just that's all that was entered in was the testing data?
Only his spreadsheets. The actual data that he pulled that from was never entered into evidence.
Wow, that's
only
really interesting.
His spreadsheets, so far as I know, but a lot of it's under seal, so I'm still guessing there.
Huh, that's interesting. So the other question I have are maybe like really basic questions, right? Things like, did Karen's car, and this, maybe I should know this and I apologize for not, did this model have things like automatic reverse braking?
Yes, the 2022 model has absolutely freaking everything. It has ABS braking system, and it's a digital electronic ABS braking system, so it works in reverse and forward, and that's what stops you from skidding when you hit the brakes. It also had sensors. It's got, I can't even remember how many sensors it's got all around the outside of the vehicle, where if she'd have struck John, it would have triggered the video to record what's behind the car. It would have recorded the impact event. There's also, like, I looked at typical data. I asked AI to bring me up some typical accident data showing a vehicle. You can't impact. Karen Reed could not herself impact the way a vehicle behaves when it strikes something. You will be at, this is something that that her team's experts pointed out. The vehicle's momentum is interrupted when it hits something. That's not something she could impact. She couldn't change that herself.
Right.
That's just physics. If you are going at a certain speed in free motion and then something gets in the way, it slows the speed down.
Yeah.
That will trigger the vehicle to record that event that slowed the speed down suddenly. It's just stuff like that. That car is probably one of the most high-tech cars. It's a pretty luxurious model. It's a luxury model, so it's got all the freaking high tech that was available in 2022. And then I compared tech that was on the vehicle then to tech that's on their latest models, for example, and even that tech hasn't really changed. It's still the same tech. So
wow, even today, even today's model.
Even today's model, yeah. So the amount of chips that are all over that car, there's some in the bumper, there's some in the front end, there's some behind the grille, there's some behind the headlights. They're all up the sides of the car for side impacts. So you know when you have an accident, when someone T-bones you, for example, there's all sensors for that stuff. So there's chips all up the sides of the car as well to measure side impact. There's sensors for yaw, pitch, all the things that airplanes do.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's sensors all over that car. So you can't tell me that all the sensors on that car glitched out all at the same time, because they're all separate to each other. So
there's no way. So, but just to be clear, what you're saying, and this was my instinct, but I didn't have even a most basic working knowledge to make this claim, is that this model car, there's no way that we would not have more data that would have told us that she ran into something.
Right, and they screwed themselves up by zeroing it out, because what they presented to the court or to the jury was, there is no data recording this event. So that, do you get what I'm saying?
Yes,
like, there was no event because there is no data for it.
Right. It's like, well, we would rather have no data than data that disproves what we're saying.
Correct.
Basically.
And on top of that, this is something that the people that you are putting a spotlight on right now don't seem to understand, is that Karen Reid did not have possession of that vehicle. From the point that it was taken from Mr. Reid's driveway in Dighton, she never had that vehicle. It was in their possession.
Yep.
So whatever happened, and this is the missing date timestamps. You and I had a brief discussion in emails about the date timestamps.
Yeah.
All that should be there. You cannot tell me a 2022 Toyota Lexus luxury model system didn't have the dates on it when they've been recording dates against this shit since 1990, freaking whatever it was, 5 or 6. I can't remember the date.
Right. In other words, just to be very clear, like, it should have had a date and time stamp on whatever events were being recorded.
Right. And for those who haven't seen it, I did do a video on an actual Toyota Lexus expert showing us what data he has pulled from this model Toyota in his own investigations of another case. So we see date timestamp, we see columns of information that's just not shown to the jury in any of these trials, not even entered into evidence in either trial. So
wild.
I can't even remember the name of the video to tell the audience, because I did so many.
Yeah, well, you can email it to me.
Search my channel for Lexus, and you'll see them all. So
this is what makes me so, angry too. Like, people will ask, and I hear them saying, well, why didn't Karen's team then ever bring any of this up? And well, I wonder what your answer to that would be. I have my own ideas, but what would be your response to that?
Sorry, my son was just talking to me. Just ask that question again.
What would be your response to because this is what they'll say, well, how come the defense team didn't bring any of this up then, if that's all true?
Because the defense team has no way of proving it. Like, you're talking about a different level of proof in a criminal trial. They needed to be, if they were going to make the accusation that someone fiddled with the data, they had to prove that first to the judge to get it into evidence. And as Ginny says, Bev wouldn't allow it. So even if they did have that, she wasn't going to let it in anyway. So I think that it was just really difficult for them to, with Beverly micromanaging every single detail the way she was, they just weren't going to be able to bring it in. So they went with, in the trial, they went with their strongest arguments, the things that they could prove. So, or at least had witness testimony to corroborate what they were trying to say. So I think it's going to be a very different show to watch when it comes to the civil case. Now, a lot of people are like, well, stuck Karen Reid because of all the stuff that's going on. The thing is, if you were ever even the slightest bit curious about some of this stuff, because it didn't come out in either of the trials, then you will be watching very closely the civil trial, because this is where it will all come out. It's a completely different thing to prove malicious prosecution than defending yourself in a criminal trial. In a criminal trial, all you're trying to do is get the not guilty verdict. In a malicious prosecution, and you can't even bring up the malicious prosecution really in the criminal trial. The only way they could, which is what they did do, was putting it into motions to dismiss.
Yep.
But this is a different kettle of fish now. This is where Karen Reid is trying to prove malicious prosecution. If she has anything that can prove they jimmied the data for any of this stuff that we've been talking about, I mean, even just the proof that we have shown so far is enough to put to a judge in a civil trial. So
what do you think about, like, for example, the edited videos? I mean, do you think that meets a different standard? I mean, I guess it's a whole other ballgame. It's not even probably comparing apples and oranges. It's probably just like apples and bananas. They're not even in the same category.
In the context that we are talking about with malicious prosecution, it is actually apples and apples. Because if you can prove that all the data was jimmied, right? So the one thing I have posted on my channel and on X is that the most compelling thing about the civil argument that this was malicious is that all the equipment snuffed itself on the same night. All the equipment that has nothing to do with each other. The vehicle, the phones, the cameras in the street and the cameras at the Sally Port. None of those are interconnected. None of those have anything to do with each other, but they all glitched on the same night at the same cameras.
Right. And in other words, if you're making that argument, if you're making the argument that, there's a 2-minute gap in the library video, there's whatever data wasn't collected at the house, at the geofence data wasn't collected, whatever
all phones started butt dialing each other,
right?
like by themselves.
Yes. And with the malicious,
if you want to make the connection, they seem like apples and bananas until you make that connection that they're saying all the data glitched out all at the same hour. Now you've got that connection between all of the different data points.
And is there, and I guess I didn't even think about this until right now because we're talking about it, in terms of how they, because when I read, when we first read through Karen's 90-page whatever suit, it sort of lumps everybody together, although it makes clear that there are sort of different motives, right? Like the House defendants are a different situation than the police. However, that there's overlap and they're working together. But that's one case. I mean, that's a huge umbrella to try to bring both of these separate entities together and make a lucid argument.
Right. And that's how they're doing it. The same way I said with the data, because all of those things are not seemingly connected. The butt dialing phones, that's to do with the House defendants, right?
Right.
But now we're adding in the Canton cameras from the library and then the Sally Port footage and all of that. That's what connects it all together. Those are now glitching. Now we've got the House defendant shit all glitches. All the stuff on the streets is now glitching. Now we've got the vehicle glitching, which is not common for the Toyota Lexus. There's never been any recalls on those systems since I think the last date I had for any recalls on those systems was like 1999 or something.
Wow.
Just after America made most of those systems a requirement for manufacturers. I think they had maybe one recall on one system way back then. Like these are all new systems from that point. So now you're tying all of them together because of the data. The data points show that they're all corroborating.
Wow.
And then you add in, how did John's vehicle get fixed? We've got video evidence of that vehicle being struck by Karen's car.
Mm-hmm.
We know that John's vehicle was impacted by Karen's car.
Mm-hmm.
And I've proved that incidentally with the motion stuff with the vehicle. I was doing frame by frame motion comparison.
Yeah.
So we proved that his vehicle actually did move.
100%.
So, and that's a forensic study of movement, by the way. That's how they measure, like if an explosion goes, that's how they measure the movement of air after an explosion and how far out that environment is affected
Yep.
from an explosion, those sort of things. So that's forensic evidence that John's vehicle did move. So now we've got another vehicle, completely different vehicle again, that has somehow fixed itself from an impact. So these are the things that pull all of them together into that one cluster of information as the House defendants and the police working in conjunction, because all that shit couldn't have happened without some sort of coordination. Now we've got an email from Colleen Crawford confirming that she was coordinating some of this stuff.
Right. Yep. Yeah. I mean, the balls on some of, I when I look back on it now, I think that because none of these people had the foresight to be able to see, they just didn't see it coming. I think if all of them could go back knowing what they know now, everything they would have done differently, because they're under such an incredible amount of constant scrutiny, and it's not going anywhere. It's just getting more and bigger and worse, right?
And it's getting bigger and worse because every time we discover something and we put it out there, they're scrambling to cover up their original lie. They're going to make up a new lie to cover up the old lie. Does that make sense? So it's getting messier and messier. More lies they got to cover, the more messy this whole thing is getting. So
yeah. I just saw today, and I'm sure I heard this at some point, but there's so much evidence, and that's the other thing about this case. And I really feel for Karen's defense team now in retrospect, just in the last few months of spending every day almost going through evidence in this case. There was an incredible amount of evidence. I mean, you know how it is. You could take one topic, just take the key cycles, and literally you could exhaust that for so long, and then that opens 10 other doors. Then you're down those avenues.
We literally did that, Sam, through even leading up to and during both trials. We literally did that with all of our videos, all of the community together. We produced thousands of hours on each topic.
So true. And there's more. And there's still more. That's the crazy part. That's the part. There's still more. Like today I woke up and I saw something I'd never seen, never heard of, and was like, oh my God, that's really interesting. Right. So it's like, now all of a sudden people are, changing the sound quality and some of the audio or video that we have. And now you can hear things you couldn't hear before. And now other things are starting to kind of come together. And it's like, wow, wait a minute. Things are making sense that weren't making sense before. And so there was an endless amount of evidence, and I don't think that the defense had even scratched the surface through the end of the first trial, and they were only kind of getting their feet wet almost with the evidence with that full team, right? Because then they had all the interns by the time that the second trial wrapped up. It's crazy.
Right, as Kat said, they never expected to go to trial. They thought she'd plead out because they thought they had cooked up such a good case against her that she'd go, oh my God, I'm sunk.
Yeah.
Can I just say what you referred to, things you've never heard before, and we literally can't address them just yet, but it's coming. There is one more big bombshell. I've just been given a go ahead from Karen's team to make a video about it, but I got to make it and get them to approve it first just to see where it's going to go. But there is one more bombshell to come out regarding the data. One of the videos and things we found with one of the videos, I was a little cryptic. Like the one bit I did actually release was back in, I think it was March last year before the second trial kicked off. I found evidence of Adobe Acrobat fingerprints all through the metadata, like metadata remnants. It wasn't specific metadata because they'd made attempts with this program called EXIF to completely delete all of the metadata, insert their own metadata. And so I released that video saying this has got Adobe fingerprints all over it. And one of the biggest tells was that the gamma bug that was evident in Adobe software during that period was actually in the John's ring cam footage. And then within 2 days of me having released that video, there's a freaking motion put forward to the court by, was that Lally or was that?
I think
it was Marsh.
Hank.
It was Hank.
It was Hank.
Put to the court asking Auntie Bev if Colleen Crawford could present clarified, quote unquote, video to the jury. And I was like, oh, you cow, that's what you would do. You would use Adobe to clarify, and then they can explain away the Adobe fingerprints. I was like, now I know they're using information that we are finding. They've got their little team of people, which I presume is this little team that you're talking about here, who are watching all of our videos and getting all that information to their people, whoever that may be,
You are
and then
right.
cooking up excuses to cover their tracks. And that's the reason I haven't released this little bombshell I was going to release, because if it's useful in Karen Reid's
Don't release
Karen Reid's claims that this was a malicious prosecution, if it's useful to them, I don't want to give them the heads up. So
wow,
but
that is
yes,
so
Colleen
interesting.
Crawford, if you are watching this, we know what you done, love. We know.
So that's really important. I want to highlight what you just said. So, because sometimes words like metadata just fly over people's heads. They literally, like, their eyes glaze over and they kind of know it has a
Right.
significance, but they have no idea what that means. And so, but I love when you start talking about it, one of the things that I think it does help is like, oh, wait a minute, I kind of get that. Like, so wait, there's this data, it's raw, it's not engaged with in any way that would then leave a fingerprint behind of somebody else engaging with the data, right? And so when somebody else does, it can leave, let's say, a virus behind, right? Because they put in their own software to get inside this data to grab it out. And in doing that and screwing with it, they've left fingerprints behind.
Right. There's fragments still there that they didn't catch. So even though they might have deleted that metadata, portions of other parts of the metadata in the data refer to those things that did exist.
That's
But
crazy.
Here's another interesting thing is that the date that they put on the metadata to be able to give it to the defense and have it entered into evidence matches dates of Colleen Crawford's emails.
Really?
Thereabouts. So that's
What is her title? What was her title? Do you know what she does for a living? Like, what is her job?
Head of the tech department for CPD. So every police department has a tech department, and that's where they receive into evidence, or they have their experts pull the data from vehicles and phones and whatever. It's the tech department.
Is she a civilian or a cop?
I actually couldn't answer that, but I'm sure there's some locals in the chat that could answer that for you.
Does anybody know, if anybody knows whether or not Colleen Crawford is a police officer or civilian, let us know. Because that is, I think she's a civilian, but I don't remember. I would think that the likelihood of getting somebody with software engineering experience, knowledge, and background at a higher level and having them also be a police officer are going to be unlikely. That's my guess, but I might be wrong.
I actually don't. I think Ashley could be right. I think she could be a civilian working in the DA's office.
That's what she is. Yeah, she's a civilian working in the DA's office. All right, so
But
that makes sense.
she doesn't do it all by herself. So she also works with, I think it's Good, or is it like Gorino?
Gorino.
Those, aren't they MSP troopers?
Connor, Keith, and Garino. Yes.
They're MSP. So I think it's Good. And she also has a private business with one of them where she does this sort of tech stuff. So, but I know it's one of the cops. So it's not just Fanning. Thank you. It's
absolutely
Fanning.
Absolutely. So interesting. No, it's listen, the data, the reason why it's so important is because once you see it, I mean, it's undeniable, right? I mean, it's just a clear trail, I guess, is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, there is a clear trail. And if I was the defense, that's what I would be doing, is making it, all those connections come down to, like, it's a lot harder to prove Proctor placed taillight on the lawn.
Right.
Unless we actually got that on video, right?
Right.
But it's a lot harder to prove that. And all he had to do was put a hole in his pocket and walk around and shake his leg, and it would have been, ta-da, there it is on the lawn. So even that's really hard to prove.
Exactly.
If you want things that are easy to prove, this is one that's easier to prove, not just proving each of these things must have happened because this is what the data shows, but that they're all interconnected because they all happened at the same hour on the same night.
Absolutely. And then the parts after the fact to manufacture, change, alter, plant evidence, leave people out of the house, put people in the house. Allie's involved. Allie, who was never there, was now there. Oh, she picked him up at this time, but she's on video at that time. Just like there's so much lying that went on. And I, like you were saying, and then there's I think one of the things that made me realize just how much these people are watching is the argument that happened with Karen and Aiden. Because the night that first argument where there was audio that leaked, which we're not getting into, the night that happened, the very first time, and they had their thing publicly, it was right after his performance at the theater.
And they were already talking about it. They somehow already knew.
They already knew? You're talking about,
yeah,
really?
Yeah, the other side knew before any of us did.
That's interesting. Well, what made me realize, though, just how much those guys are listening or like hanging is how immediately the prosecutor's office changed direction after that whole series of events. Right? It was like they happened close enough in time, but it was like once one thing happened, so you can see, I guess the point is, without getting into the specifics, you can see that there's a reaction and that it's real. It's having a real effect on real lives. Whatever's going on in this space is what I mean.
Yes. So I go back to Brian Albert's comment that it would have taken hundreds of people to be involved in this. No, it doesn't.
Not
because
at all.
What they are relying on in this little testify PR stunt that they're pulling, what they are relying on is that people will always believe the cops over everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
They'll always believe the cops first. So you only needed certain prominent people involved in this investigation to say, this is what we found, and everyone just went, yeah, they're cops. They're our cops. We believe them.
Right.
You didn't need hundreds to be involved. Like, I don't believe the ambulance people were involved.
No.
I do believe that some of their memories of what happened that night were influenced because of Jen McCabe and their relationships with Jen McCabe and her kids.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that after the fact, those people's memories were manipulated. However, I don't think they were involved personally in the cover-up. They were just there. They picked up the body. Off they went, and then they were convinced to say this, that, or the other afterwards.
100%.
I don't believe that all of the cops that arrived at the scene, like CERT, for example, I don't think they were involved.
No.
But I believe that they thought, hey, these are the investigators. They're over us. This is their crime scene. We just do what we're told.
Correct.
So when you come from that environment, you already know certain people are going to fall in line with whatever it is that you put out. You don't need them to be on side. You just say, I'm the investigator, or I'm the lead on this case, not you. So this is what you're going to say.
Right.
So
yes. Yep. Yeah. The truth is, like, I think it's very possible even Buchanan and Proctor believed that Karen Reed did this. Right? Like, that's the thing. Even these two who were directly involved, when you look at the way they handled, for example, the Brian Walsh case, like,
all it has to exist is the belief that it was her. And
exactly.
Then
Correct. Yeah. That's it. It was just the belief, because at that point it entitles bad behavior. It entitles, well, she did it, so we're just gonna, forget about the chain of custody for this particular case. Forget about the clothing and where the clothing was. We don't need to keep chain of custody for this case, right? This one will just overlook it a little bit.
Right. Just on what the chat's saying, if there's any of my audience watching this, I forgot to tell everybody I was going to be on here, so there probably isn't many of them, but if you are in the chat, please hit the like button and get Sam's likes up. It doesn't really help the algorithm anymore because they changed everything. But please hit the like button.
Oh my God, you're like the person to talk to about the algorithm, right? I mean, if you wanted to know about algorithms, that's probably the
stupid algorithm. But yeah, they just changed it all. Yeah, likes and interactions no longer are the things that put your views in front of eyeballs, basically.
Is that true on YouTube specifically?
On YouTube specifically, their algorithm, yeah.
How do you know that? I mean, how do you find that out?
Thumbs up, thumbs down, interactions, all that sort of stuff. All was part of the boost that you would get in putting it in front of eyeballs.
Yeah.
I can't tell you exactly what the new algorithm is based on because I haven't really dug into it. I just know, and how you find out is when you're in your control panel, YouTube gives you these little videos on what's in your dashboard area. You over to the right of your dashboard area, you get the little updates. Now, a lot of the times they're just boring. The creator insights and shit. But
yeah,
if you watch that and check it each time, you'll see that they're about to release a new feature and what that new feature is and blah, blah, blah. So they didn't necessarily say it in plain English. You'll no longer be getting the views because of your likes.
I see. Makes sense. Very
But
interesting.
anyway, everyone hit the like button because it's
yes,
good
everyone
for,
hit the like button. Thank you. I always forget.
Anyway.
I always forget to advocate. It's like I'm just so bad at it. Like I just doesn't, you know, this is just not my area of knowledge, expertise, and I'm bad at it. But we'll get better.
Right. Well, I don't advocate either on my channel, and that's why because it actually doesn't affect your coverage. So.
Well, it's a good practice though, right? Like just self-advocacy, but it's just not in my DNA at this point yet. So a couple other things. Just like during the second trial, we had Welcher, right? And so they of course were not allowed. And I really want to also say I am so glad that so many of you brought up the Judge Bev situation because I forget that too. I forgot about that. Again, I wasn't there in a lot of that early before the first trial, pre-trial stuff to see them have to fight for everything. But I know about that just intellectually. So there's that. The other question that I think I have then is, so once Welcher comes into the picture, right? And is he literally just essentially taking what Trooper Paul did and making it sound more legitimate?
Yep, literally.
That's it.
Literally. He wasn't given anything else except Trooper Paul's make Trooper Paul sound legit was his instruction, basically.
Without using his name, really.
Without using his name, right. And they the defense tried really, really hard to get him to admit that it was all based on Trooper Paul's data. And that's how you can tell that the defense knows that data was cooked because they kept trying to bring it back. They were trying to get that door open so they could start talking about how Trooper Paul cooked the data. But he wasn't admitting that he was working off of Trooper Paul's data. And they had to go the long way around proving that it was Trooper Paul's data. So
I mean, to the point where they weren't allowed to ask questions about Trooper Paul at all. That was really upsetting.
And that's why, because the prosecution knew they were trying to open the door on this stuff that we're talking about. So we can tell they have more information about it because otherwise they wouldn't have gone that long way around trying to get that admission out of him.
I see what you're saying. So yeah, right. We know for sure that the defense was trying to get things in that they were not ultimately able to get in. That's a really important point, right?
Right.
That's a really important point because that's such an obvious point, I guess. And so when you have these folks, whoever they are, kind of, well, why didn't the defense do this? And why didn't the defense do that? Well, the first obvious answer to that question is because they weren't allowed.
Well, Auntie Bev is the answer to that question.
Yeah.
We already know what you're getting at, that Auntie Bev was on your side. We get it, folks. You don't have to spell it out any harder.
She is tough to take. Like when I watch now in retrospect, while I'm watching for deception and other indicators with the witnesses, man, is she tough for me to take. I'm really glad I missed a lot of the pretrial stuff because I would have had a nervous break. I would have lost my shit on her. I really would have.
I did lose my shit. Nobody else was talking about it. I just went video after video. Like, this is this is this, and this is that, and she should be held accountable. I just went off.
Yeah, I mean, of course, right? It was so deeply upsetting, and especially because Karen Reed's life was hanging in the balance at the time, right? Now it's like, now everything feels like a little bit less intense because she's not going to prison for the rest of her life, right? So it's like, all right, okay, I can take a sigh.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of people only tuned in my channel because I was doing the venting that they wanted to do that other people weren't doing. They were all holding back on the venting. You know, a lot of these lawyers and stuff still have their licenses to practice, and they couldn't vent as hardcore as
absolutely
lawyers wanted to vent. So I just went off and gave everybody that outlet.
It's true. A lot of people didn't want, even still, I mean, they don't, you know, like even like, you know, Peter Tragos, right? Like he'll do it, but he does it in his way. It's more subtle. He's not going to just scream and, you know, outwardly say that, you know, that Bev is a total whatever, you know, an insider. He's just not going to do that. Like he'll try to stay within the bounds of respectability, even if he's angry about it or whatever. He points it out, but he's not going to go, you know, nuts on it. And I get that too. If you're a lawyer working in the field, I completely understand why you wouldn't want to be screaming and yelling about judges being corrupt. But
well, interestingly, I spoke with Hayden. Sorry, he's an Australian lawyer on the tubes that covered some of the case.
Mm-hmm.
Even he is bound to certain, let's say, etiquette, as even though he's not talking in respect to Australian judges and lawyers, he's still bound to a certain amount of etiquette when he's referring to other countries' judges. So I found that interesting as well.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, listen, I get it. Listen, it was really uncomfortable and scary for me to even states away from Massachusetts as a citizen with no involvement in law enforcement at all, right? I'm not in a criminal justice in any way, right? In the system, to even speak out against police was scary. And I have people that still say like, oh, I'm lucky to be in Arizona because I would never do it if I were any closer. And I get that. It's scary.
It is. I mean, we were already at that stage here in Australia. A lot of people are like, why don't you cover Australian cases? Because if we do, we go to jail. If I covered this case prior to the court, prior to the trial, prior to the jury giving a verdict, if I had covered this case here in Australia, I would have been thrown in jail.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
for contempt of court, it's called.
For trying to sway public opinion, you're saying?
Just talking about it. Doesn't matter whether you're saying the truth or not. The courts just won't let you talk about any criminal trial. So we just had that mushroom murder trial here recently. We had 3 YouTubers and I think 5 journalists who are all threatened to be thrown in jail if they didn't take their shit down.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That is really interesting.
We actually had a journalist here. His name's Darren Hinch. For the Aussies in the house, will probably recognize the name. He actually did do, I think all up, I think he done 4 or maybe 5 stints in jail for contempt of court because he kept publishing when he was told not to.
Wow. How interesting. Well, that's helpful to hear, I guess. I mean, you know, maybe sometimes we can get jaded and not see the other side too, right? Not see that, you know, like the advantages that maybe we may still have in comparison to other folks who don't have as much leeway. Right?
Yeah.
So I think it is helpful just on a global perspective, especially in America, we can get very just obtuse in our perspective, right?
Well, I did a really big deep dive on this whole thing and where it comes from. Like Andrea Burkhart's very staunch supporter, and I am too, of transparency in the courts. So we must be able to see the process happening to be able to see that justice is done. And if the public is not satisfied that justice has been done, then the system is lacking, if that makes sense.
100%. Yeah.
So there's a lot of in Australia, we take case law from different countries to be able to support this overreaching, overbroad statutes that allow the courts to put people in jail for talking about trials. And it comes from some American stuff, I think federal sort of legislation where they don't televise trials, to some stuff from the UK. It's kind of all intermingled into our system as to why we don't allow it. But our excuse is we do allow people to sit in on the court hearings. So you can go and sit in the gallery and watch the hearing. You can't publish it. You can't tell people what you saw, but you can go into the gallery and watch it. So
That's crazy. That's a little crazy. But I understand. I could see the thinking. I still think it's crazy, but I can see the thinking.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, it just opens the door for all the kind of corruption that we're seeing, right? It's just small thinking that gets stuck, right? It's called, in psychology, it's called a closed system. Any kind of system, I think we're seeing that all over Massachusetts. It's just when you have the same people in charge for a really long time and they're just bringing their friends in and their friends in and their friends in, you stop being able to have outside perspectives. And that's what begins to erode any system, no matter what we're doing, no matter what we're talking about, whether it's a physical system in the brain or a social system in the world. I see a lot of people asking questions about addiction and stuff. So I just want to let everybody know I will absolutely get to these questions. I see you. I will answer them. I absolutely promise. I just want to wrap up this part of this discussion before we jump back to kind of answering the questions about addiction. I will stay as long as I need to answer any questions people have about it, of course. Because I do think that it's mental illness, addiction are important questions. I think that the challenge, like even whether it's with justice, the legal system, when we're talking about anything, the challenge is that any kind of like one answer that is sweeping and broad is going to get us into trouble. And particularly when we're dealing with what are called complex systems, like human beings, we're a lot alike, right? We're probably 1,000 times more the same, than we think we are. However, the differences are also important. And this is where absolutism can get you into trouble. So, because I see people saying,
it's one of the reasons I don't specifically like body language reading or language reading or writing readings, because it lumps everybody into this same broad category that we're all going to behave the same in the same situation.
Right.
And people act differently under stress. People act differently under grief. All those things are very much unique to each person. But yeah, and it's that ties back to using the read technique, which we've discussed in previous shows, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, even with body language, well, I guess that's like a broad topic, but yeah, I mean, body language as a science is by itself is debunked, right? Like you can't look at a person's body language and generalize and extrapolate broadly, because it's actually debunked science. You have to zoom all the way in and be able to understand who the person is that you're. So the trick with body language science is you have to get to know the person. That's why it takes I hate to say it this way, but it's not so easy. If I'm going to, with this Allie McCabe stuff, that took so much time. It's a 10-minute clip for this young woman, right? To analyze her. It took hours of watching that lady. Hours, because you can't generalize. You have to get to know who you're dealing with in order for it to be meaningful at all and to have any value. That's why it's so time consuming. To your point, you have to be able to understand the person that you're dealing with, and it takes fucking forever. Yeah. So, but you can do it. But you have to know who you're dealing with. You have to get to know the person, and it takes an incredibly long time, an incredible amount of time, effort, attention, and energy for hours and hours and hours and hours. You have to study somebody, and it's a lot. It burns you out too. But to your point, there is no it's not a one size fits all. The reason that I said that some people were talking about like drug addiction and mental illness. Well, some people have what we would call a primary drug addiction and a secondary mental illness. Other people have a primary mental illness and a secondary substance abuse problem. And right, so that's the thing. We could argue even, and if we were
And
both
some self-medicate their primary mental illness with the addiction.
right, well, right, or some version of that, right? I mean, it depends on the situation and a lot of very, very, very nuanced particulars and dates and times, and like everybody's a little different. That's why, and the only reason why that, by the way, the only reason why we would even have that conversation, just so it's just so it's clear, is to be able to treat it. So the only reason why I would argue with another professional about like whether somebody has a primary psychiatric issue or a primary substance use problem is to figure out how to put together a treatment plan that is going to produce the most likely positive outcome for that person, just to be clear.
Yep.
Right, because otherwise it's just practically it doesn't matter. We could have an intellectual debate, but it's just irrelevant, right? It's really just, it all comes down to like what matters in terms of what's going to get somebody to where they want to be, which is like a happy, healthy, successful life.
Can we tie that conversation into the broader picture as well? Like, a lot of people on social media, I'm not going to name any names because I don't actually know who fits this category and who doesn't, but a lot of people on social media also have an addiction to drama.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And so I've been looking into that a lot lately for obvious reasons, and find that a lot of professionals in your area of expertise will say it's because they grew up like that. Like they grew up in a household that was always full of drama. And so when they come to adulthood, that drama is no longer around them and they start creating that drama so they feel comfortable with their lives. Sometimes it has nothing to do with addiction and substance addiction, but an addiction to what's going on around them.
A need to recreate the same level of chaos to feel safe. Is what you're saying.
To feel comfortable,
feel familiar. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Familiarity. Sure. Thank you. That's the word.
Yeah. I mean, and it can be. It depends. Like, sort of. So somebody was saying this earlier about depression. She said, it seems like my son is addicted to suffering. Essentially, she didn't say that exactly. I'm paraphrasing, but the idea was like, could you like suffering so much that you keep going back to it? Right. That was the question.
And I guess is the answer yes?
Well, the answer is that you don't. That's the only way that you know to continue to behave. And what ends up, it's like feeling better. It's almost like for some people, and this sounds terrible, but if you are prone to depression, which is also what I would say is going on with what you're saying, Aussie, I think the people that are prone to the negative drama are actually also prone to things like depression, because generally speaking, the kind of home environment that you're describing that somebody would want to recreate is something like where there's deep insecurity, a lot of anger, a lot of like, I want to make you suffer because I feel bad and somebody else made me suffer. And so in that mentality, there's no other, like, that's all that I've ever known. So I don't know that like being a happy for somebody like that, when I see somebody else like smiling and happy, I assume they're either faking it. Like they literally are lying to me because people aren't happy generally, period. Or it's so far out of my repertoire of understanding that I just block it out completely. Like I don't even see it. If somebody's really like happy and singing and smiling, I assume they're crazy, lying, or I don't see it. Does that make sense? So because we only actually have access to things that we understand. So you know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's like, that they're,
you can be exposed to it, but understanding it is the key. And it just because you had access to it doesn't mean it sinks in because you don't have that understanding, or vice versa.
Right.
It does.
You don't know there's any other way.
Yep.
Right. Like that's all you know. You don't even know there's an alternative. That's the problem. Right. That's what we call like a closed system. Like, because the other thing about the online community that's really interesting, Aussie, that I think generates even more of this to a degree. It's like it's closed to outsiders. Nobody in my life is, most people, they either don't have a big life outside of the computer world, or people around them don't know about it. So there's nobody around them to like say, hey, are you sure you want to post that? Or like, there's no consequence for them for engaging in that way that's real and visceral. And so they think it's okay to keep doing. And it is. I mean, it's just that it's not healthy. It's not going to get you where you want to probably go in life. That would be that's what I would say to that person if I were speaking to them directly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and a lot of people will say, well, it's free speech. I'm allowed to have an opinion. It's like, yeah, but is it
100%.
healthy?
Right.
Is it healthy? The question is not, are you allowed to? The question is this good for you?
Yeah. I'm so sorry I missed this earlier, you guys. Somebody had asked, I got to know it. Somebody sent $2 and said, why no current science to dependency treatment? I'm not sure what that is a question. I'm not sure exactly what the question is there. There is, this is like a huge question, you guys. Like, so how much, there's two different sets of people that are interested in working in substance use treatment. Okay. Note, I didn't say science. I'm not talking about people that want to study it. I'm talking about people that are working in treatment. You have people that are in recovery from treatment, that are in recovery and want to help. Then you have social workers predominantly who are like people that have had mostly family members, friends, somebody they know, care about, whatever. Most of the time, social workers are in it because they want to, help somebody else or fix themselves on some level, whatever. So they're coming at it from more of a behavioral health perspective, but social work isn't necessarily heavy in science. It's heavy in practical application. So the science to these things is happening on the periphery. Like I'm in a PhD program. The difference between like someone who's in a PhD program for psychology is that I'm studying like the nuances of the science. But if I am working as a counselor in rehab, that science that I know and I'm studying is not getting into that person's hands, not anytime in the next decade. That science is happening at the very forefront of the science, and it's going to take a long time to trickle into the hands of the people who are doing the work. That's just the unfortunate nature of our system. That's not just true with psychology and social science. That's true with every science. That's true with medical science. That's true with everything. Like the people in the academic towers have a lot of information that the people on the ground doing the work aren't going to have for another decade. Does that make sense? So the science is there. Oh, there's so much science. I mean, I could spend the next 10 years telling you right now. I could just hours and hours of me giving you scientific information about, addiction, how to treat it, what to do, how to do all that. But it's not necessarily going to translate on the front lines of substance use disorder treatment because that's just not who's doing the work.
Someone makes a very good point that there's more money in the illness, maintaining the illness than maintaining treatment.
Probably. I mean, there's also a lot of money in the treatment, right? A lot of freaking money in substance use treatment. But, this is a really, really big question. And the other thing I would say is like this, it's not so easy. I think the biggest barrier is not how do we do it? Because people know, like, it doesn't really matter why something works. If it works, it works. I need to know why. And if you're working with me, I will give you the why. I'll give you the science. But you don't need to have the knowledge to understand, to know that it does work, right? And so at the end of the day, we have solutions. It's just that you got to want those. It's like there are drugs right now that you could take that'll help every person that's ever taken a cigarette or a nicotine. It'll stop it right now, today. But you got to want that to stop. And not everybody wants it to stop. And that's the problem. Some people just don't want to stop. That's it. Like we have drugs right now that'll stop every smoker in the world from ever smoking tomorrow. But they have to want to stop smoking first.
Wait, what do you got?
There are medications today that I could give you that'll make you never want a cigarette again in 1 week. If I give you a certain medication,
where is that shit?
It's there. They're all there. But you got to want that. Like, you know how many clients I have had go on medicines like that to drink alcohol, and then within 3 days, they're like, I don't think I want to take that anymore because it works. And then they don't want to drink anymore. And they're like, I want my drink back.
No, I want something that works, so I don't want to smoke anymore. I mean, I don't want to smoke anymore. I've had so many attempts at giving up.
Oh, really?
I don't want to smoke anymore. I just can't get over that first.
Oh, I can help you with that. That's a different conversation. I can give you the answers.
I'm in the
to that.
category of want to, but I just find it so hard.
It's hard.
And being around other smokers too doesn't help because it's
that's what I was going to say. So you actually jumped the gun. That's where I was going a minute ago. I think the biggest barrier to most people, like even in the Reiner situation, something I heard him say made me think of this. One of the things that he said, somebody asked him in a podcast about addiction. It's a recovery podcast. He said, "Why did you go back?" And he's like, "You know what? The truth is, I knew I was going to go back because I missed my lifestyle. I missed my friends. I just wanted to go back. And I just wanted to go be me back in my life. And that's what I did." So, I think there's a reason why people do things generally to begin with. And
I think what you're describing is there's even an addiction to the addiction. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to give up smoking yet. Is that addiction to the addiction? Does that make sense?
From
a mental addiction to physical addiction.
100%. Yes.
I was like that with weed. I smoked leaf for self-medicating for many, many years. Like it helped me not get angry at the kids while I was single parenting and stuff. For many, many years, that was my come down for the end of the day. I'd have a smoke a leaf. I never got trashed, stoned or anything. It was just taking the edge off the nerves for the day. But I did it for 20 years. Like every day for 20 years. So it was a difficult addiction when I was mentally addicted that I needed to calm down with it.
Right.
Then one day, somehow, I just forgot to roll a joint.
I just forgot. That's great.
It was 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, I was like, wait.
That's amazing.
I haven't rolled a joint for 2 weeks. What the hell's going on? What is wrong with me? That's, again, my mental addiction to the addiction kicking in and saying, there's something wrong here when there was actually nothing wrong.
So that's a great example of the difference between a physically depending, a drug that causes a physical dependency versus a psychological one. It's a great example, actually.
Yeah. I just noticed a lot of people in the chat saying, I don't want to give up yet. And I was like, I've been there too, but I do want to give up. And I'm at that point where I do want to. I just can't get through that initial stage.
Totally. Listen, if something isn't hurting you, or, and you don't want to stop, then there's no need to stop it. I mean, that's the whole idea, right? I mean, you have to listen. If you're in an active addiction to something, that's different than like having a drink. I mean, there's levels to this stuff for sure. But it's always about like your own health and happiness and whether or not you have the life you want. If you're not living the life you want and you think your substance abuse is part of the problem, then I would say that might be something you want to do something about sooner than later. That would be my advice, because if you do and you do it the right way, and I don't mean like right as in, objectively right, but the right way for you, you'll hate yourself later because you'll go, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't do this a lot sooner. That's my experience. Yeah.
Can we talk about that medication after this show?
Yes, of course. I'll send it to you. 100%. Yes. Yeah. And that's the other thing. Like people, there are good medications. Like there are medicines in the world that are there for a reason, and they are life-changing. A lot of people will be like, well, I'm not going to take one drug, but take it for another. And it's like, well, you don't know anything about psychiatric medicine, because psychiatric medicine is designed to do exactly the opposite of what mood-altering medication does. Like drugs are designed to destabilize. That's what gives you the high. Psychiatric medication is designed to do the exact opposite. It's designed to rebalance and restabilize on a road to never having to be unbalanced again. Not unbalanced, but to not be destabilized again is a better way to say it. But again, there's just the more you understand something, the more knowledge you have, the more you know. And if you don't know, you don't know. That's just life, right?
Cool. Can I change the subject a little bit?
Go ahead.
Same topic, but just a little bit on a different sort of
Sure,
course.
of course.
Did you notice the I'm trying to think of a kind word for it, but there probably is no kind word for it. But did you notice the misogyny in this trial? The case against Karen was, you must be a psychotic female to have this fight with your boyfriend and scream at him on the phone.
Yeah.
And you must be psychotic to this point where you would kill him. And this seems to be adopted by the people that this whole topic is about, and their little PR campaign. It's still being perpetuated in their dialogue, that because she had a fight with her boyfriend on the phone that night, she had no reason to be upset with him, because like, he never used her as a babysitter before. And even they themselves had said this on the stand, that she was just a babysitter with benefits. Like, there's all this misogyny involved in just them alone as the witnesses. Then you move it into the police case against her, and the prosecution putting forward this whole thing of Aruba or whatever. Even that was like just soaked in misogyny, because she's a female. You know, like, she couldn't make amends with people by shouting them all dinner because she's a woman. And if a man had done that, oh yeah, he's a hero because he shouted everyone dinner and he was sorry about it. Because she's a woman, she's hysterical. She's they used to, back in the old days, women who had been deemed to be histrionic were knocked in the temples and turned into vegetables, basically.
Yeah, that's where the word comes from. I mean, that's where the word hysterical comes from, right? It's from that old. This is way bigger than that, though. I mean, it goes the very foundation, the idea that like men were logical and women were emotional. I mean, the fact that people even still think we have two brains. I mean, don't get me into this. You don't want me to go here. This goes off the rails quick, because of this is, to me, starts to get into like the biggest problems that we really have as human beings today, which is really like a fundamental lack of understanding of who we are, how we are, and like what.
So I guess it ties back to the women are from Mars and men are from Venus. Is that right? Men are from Mars.
No, it's like the opposite. I mean, men and women are different, but the idea that like women are emotional and men are logical, or that even we have a logical brain and an emotional brain, these are utterly absurd concepts. The concepts they're absurd in the most basic, like most ridiculous way, fundamentally ridiculous in every way, shape, and form. They're just ridiculous.
Like, as a society, these are things that we need to challenge, like in ourselves, how we perceive and respond to things. Like if we're watching a case like this and we're getting emotionally moved one way or the other, you might be thinking the man is the one who is being unfairly treated, or you might be thinking it's the woman that's being unfairly treated.
Yeah.
Whichever way you're looking at it, it's our own concept of what we think is maleness or femaleness. We need to challenge it in ourselves in order for society to move beyond that. Does that make sense?
It could be. I mean, I would take it even a step before that, even, right? Because it's like it's how we assign ideas about what male and female are. It's even before that. It's like, for example, in a basic way, we have been taught that to be intellectual is masculine and to be emotional is feminine. And intellectual is a good thing and emotional is a bad thing. So men end up carrying an enormous burden never to show emotion, because that's not what men are supposed to do, even though it's men and women are both equally emotional. We just express emotion in maybe different ways. But a lot of that is cultural, right? It's what we were told we're supposed to be doing, right? Like how many men their dads were like, you can't show emotion because it means you're weak. I mean, a lot of men still hear that.
Right. And that also ties into introvertedness and extrovertedness. Like this there's a social expectation that everyone should be extroverts. Like if you're an introvert, people are like, well, let me help you come out of your shell. Why do they need help? Why can't they just be an introvert? Why can't they just exist as an introvert? Why do they have to come out of their shell?
Well, introverted, I think I know what you mean. Introverted actually means that you get energy from being alone. What you're talking about is like, you should be more like life of the party, I think, right? Like, why aren't you more social? Why aren't you like more talking to people more or something?
Well, sort of, but I have a son who's he's 35, so 36. I can't remember how old he is right now, but
close.
I lose track of the years. But he has always been an introvert. He's just quiet.
Oh yeah, sure.
He's social, but he only says what needs to be said. You know what I mean? He's not. Yeah. He doesn't try to fill a silence like most of us would. If there's a silence, you try to fill that silence. Like no one's talking, so I'm just going to fill it, or it's uncomfortable for you. So you try to fill it. He's not like that. You know, if there's a silence, he's happy to sit in it. Like, okay, there's a silence. But if he has something to say, it's generally very deep and very well thought out. He doesn't just blurt things out at the spur of the moment kind of thing. Like it's very measured and thought out. So, and he's always been like that since he was a little kid.
Yeah.
That a lot of people all his life, oh, he's so introverted. He needs to come out of his shell. And I had a radio show of two psychiatrists discussing this. Why do introverted people cop flack like that? So I was listening to that conversation between, it was just a radio show between different people. But yeah, I was very interested. I thought, well, this is a really good question. Why? I'm definitely an extrovert, or else I wouldn't have a YouTube channel.
Right. Yeah, totally. So, it's funny, I actually test in the middle. I'm both.
To tie it back to what I was originally saying is that we as a society, we make these expectations, as you say, it's inground into our culture.
It is very much so. And then we tend to, like, you know, whatever culture we're more connected to from our family of origin, right? Yeah, we're going to have more of an awareness of, for better or for worse, certainly. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting to watch young people change things. And, you know, I think some of that with introvert, which we're talking about, like there's a lot of younger men culturally who are, you know, the ones that sort of did go more in the direction of like video games or online social interactions that are younger maybe than your son now, where that's kind of like, that's what they do. I mean, it's just, you know, I know only because I've had their parents calling me like, my son thinks his friends are video game friends and they're not real friends, you know, and why can't he go out and meet a girl or whatever it is, you know? And I'm like, well, is he saying he's unhappy? You know, if he's not saying he's unhappy, then it may not be a problem. Maybe you have the problem. He doesn't. Depends on the situation.
You're putting the expectation on him to be unhappy.
Yes. Right. I would say about 50% of every issue that people have is exactly that. It's their expectation that they're superimposing on somebody else. Right. Yep. Yeah. And of course, parents want the best for their kids. I get all that. Right. But as a therapist, I can't help somebody unless they, at the basic level, desire a change in some form or fashion. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think too, for the situation I was just describing, both my children were later in life diagnosed with Asperger's, and that introvertedness goes hand in hand apparently with the male Asperger's, whereas the extrovert goes with the female. And then my daughter did a complete 360 from being an extrovert all of her childhood life to becoming an adult, and now she's an introvert. She doesn't speak her mind anymore. She's not as outspoken as she used to be. She's completely on a 360, but she's since been also diagnosed on the spectrum as well. So
really? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
How do you think that does or does not impact her life?
Oh, let's not talk about that one.
Fair enough.
It has a lot of impact. Like, I think we all have communication issues. We all misread people.
Sure.
We get ourselves into predicaments where we've upset someone without realizing we have put them into that position to begin with,
I got
until
you.
they're already exploding in our faces like giant walrus guts everywhere going, where does it go?
Absolutely. And
Sorry to
yes.
comedian. But yeah,
Absolutely.
that it impacts us in different ways. But you know, it's got its positive points as well, because we've all got our special interests where we become very adept at that interest, and we can do it for an inhumane number of hours versus the normal person as far as attention span goes.
Absolutely.
So it's got its pluses and its minuses, but
Absolutely. Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, to me,
sorry.
it always depends on like what you want. Like as a whoever I'm, talking about or to, like if it doesn't bother you, then, so what if it bothers, your mom or your girlfriend? I mean, if you're don't the problem with humans is that if we don't really experience something as a problem or a need to do something differently, then we're extremely unlikely to do anything differently, no matter how many other people in our lives want us to.
Yeah.
That's
Totally agree
really
with
the challenge.
So
I just
tying
want
it all back to
Yes.
these people on the screen,
I know.
think
That's
mental
right.
addiction, and it could be related to some of the things we just discussed, because we just discussed a whole broad range of them.
We sure did. Oh my God.
But yeah, I think it does tie back to the original topic. So if I took it all off track, I apologize. But
No, not at all. No, not at all.
I do think when you see the way that they are discussing the way that they are receiving the information, they already have this strong held belief that the cops must be right, and specifically these cops must be right because they've got interpersonal connections with them. And so they're already in the mindset that they're going to cherry pick the data that supports their theory or their mental mindset.
Right.
They've also got their own addictions that make them choose those things, if that makes sense. Am I
100%.
assessing this correctly?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, well, here's the thing. So I struggle personally, I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, with this YouTube show that I mentioned earlier that has risen up out of the Twitterverse. And the folks who, like you were saying, forever have been on Twitter screaming and yelling about how Karen Reed's the story is that Karen Reed's legal teams early on got together by paying people like Aiden and other content creators to tell the story that they wanted. And then all of us are just conspiracy theorists who regurgitated like little good robots the stories that Aiden and the other content creators who Karen Reed and her family duped into believing their quote narrative. That is why there's a need to set the record straight and quote defend the truth with this Testify campaign. That's the story that the folks who have now started this new YouTube channel and are defending the quote truth.org, who are asking us on John O'Keefe's birthday to donate money for his birthday, to donate money to the people in the house who murdered him. That's what they want you to do. They want you to put a nice message to about John for his birthday in the chat or whatever, in their little page, wherever you can, when you give the money, talk about how John is such a great guy and he would have been 50 years old, to give money, not to the family or not to his children. Now, I could see it's his 50th birthday. You want to start, and I even thought, man, this would be a nice thing to do. It's not my business to do that. I would be just tasteless. If I was to start a fund for John O'Keefe's children, that would not be in good taste. However, if I'm trying to claim that I am somebody who cares about his family first and foremost, you would think that one would do that. Like, I would want to start a fund for his children who he's no longer here to support, for them to go to college or for them to do whatever the hell they want to do when they're 30 years old, whatever. But to give money to the people in the house who have, oh my God, who John O'Keefe had no relationship at all with, right? It's just, to me, that's really, really upsetting to see. But anyway, the reason
I agree with what you're saying. They're doing this for themselves. They're not doing it for the children who
no.
are the ones left in the wake of, having to survive without a parent. So
No,
they're doing it for themselves because they feel wronged.
They spent 20 minutes, their last show, 20 minutes. I counted 18 minutes and 49 seconds leading off their show. You know what they talked about for 18 minutes and 49 seconds? Guess. Somebody who hasn't seen it. Nope. Yes.
That was my guess.
Aiden. Aiden and Meredith and Betero and Jess. It's I'm telling you, it is so bad. It's not bad like it's not bad or offensive to me. It's so unimaginably silly that when you watch it, you feel bad for them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to manage. It's so cringy that if this was any other group of people, I would actually say, you know what? I think this was a good idea, something that was a good idea when you guys talked about it. But in practice, this is so cringy and terrible that maybe you want to think about, you're not actually helping the cause you think you're helping. You're actually sinking the boat, right? Now, I wouldn't do that because why would I do that? That actually hurts my cause, right, in the end. But which is, I just want to hear them all talk. Like, I just want more talking. So if you want to bring on Carrie Roberts and Chris Albert and please bring them all on and let them all talk until, but the fact that you guys are 20 minutes of just sitting around talking about Mark, gossiping, just stuff I would never do. And I'm in the community that we're talking about. So to me, the whole thing is absurd and silly and ridiculous and unimaginable, because the whole point is these guys, they don't even know the difference between a fact and a theory or an opinion. Like they don't know the difference. I'm not saying that to be a jerk. I'm not saying that to be rude or mean or nasty. I am saying that as an objective observer. Like these guys, they don't know the difference between facts.
There's a lot of people that don't. That's why they watch the lawyer channels. That's why they watch LawTube, so they can learn. But the point, I think, needs to be stressed is that if you're not willing to learn, then you're going to be stuck in that pattern that you're addicted to. You need to be willing to learn.
But how can you be willing to learn if you are somebody who's personally connected to somebody who's in the house? There's no willingness. You can't be willing to learn. Like, I have no personal investment. Like, I'm personally invested in this community. And because I've been doing it for a while, of course, I have my own self-interest. But I don't know anybody in that house to be able to say, like, look, if at the end of the day, if Karen Reed, for some reason, we're all way off and she's guilty, Karen, I don't know her. I don't know her. I don't know her family. Like, so at the end of the day, if she's guilty, it doesn't change my life if that's true, right? But if I was to know somebody, I can't see them as guilty. I have to protect them. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. This also winds back to what you opened with too. People are like, well, why would AJ represent this person? And it's obvious everyone needs representation. That's the justice system that we have. But there's also, why would the family hire someone like Jackson to represent them? We're back to what you just described. They're your family member, so you care about them.
And you want them to have the best situation possible despite the horrible thing that they did. Right?
Right. But they understand that he has a mental issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I'm really glad. Like I got there because I was saying in the beginning of the show, like I didn't understand. I was like, oh no, I just was immediately selfish again. Didn't know anything about any of the Reiners. I didn't know anything about their son. So I was not thinking in facts. I was simply just having an emotional response to hearing Alan Jackson was now involved in a situation that seemed just on its face to be horrible. But then, with any information at all about what was really going on, it was like, wow, this is very different. Looks like the family's hiring him and they just don't want him to, end up in prison on death row or something, whatever, that they want to see the right thing happen. Right.
I would say to those who are worried about it is, first of all, that's how our justice system works. But I had a very interesting conversation with Defense Diaries, Ali and Bob Motter, about how do you represent someone that you feel is probably guilty? And they said, well, it's just mitigation from that point. So his mental illness mitigates the punishment to a certain degree. That's all Alan Jackson's role is going to be, I think.
Right.
How did that mental illness, all that addiction, impact the crime that he committed, as to the balance of what the punishment should be? I think that's really that's all Alan Jackson's got going in his favor. Same with Tipton. He pretty much knew, okay, now my client's actually said he did all these things with the body parts.
Right.
It's just mitigation from that point. And I have to thank Bob and Ali Motter for helping me put that into perspective, that you can still represent a guilty person and they can still be railroaded, you know?
Oh, no, absolutely. No, I agree with that. Yeah, I think this is a good example, though, of like, I can have an emotional reaction, but then when I'm given more information and I begin to understand, it changes the way I perceive what's happening, right? It's like, there's a reason why we have knee-jerk reactions to things, but then when we get more insight or more knowledge, we change how we experience it. That's why being open to information is so important, right? But if it's a closed system from the start, if there is no openness from the start, that's a different story. And I think, look, we all have bias. Like you were saying this, we're all always going to, because we are stuck in our limited perspective of reality. That's just how we are. That's how we're designed, right? Yeah. But the idea is like, am I open to outside information? And, can I be? And what we know, and I will tell you this, that mental health, just from a very practical situation, health, psychological health, wellness, healing, happiness, those types of words, those are all a byproduct of what we would call being open to being an open system, new information, not closing the door to outside information. So
yes, and that willingness to learn is part of that. If you're not willing to learn, you're just going to voice your opinion and you're not going to take anything away from it by voicing your opinion, then you're not willing to learn.
Right. They're the same. Exactly. Yes. They're interchangeable words. Correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to also just say, Mystic Rose Petals, you had sent $9.99 earlier, but you said, I've been sober from alcohol for 4 years and 4 months today. It was absolutely the hardest thing I've ever had to do to get sober. It's so hard, but so worth it. Congratulations. You are absolutely right. It is probably far and away the hardest thing. If you have a substance use disorder and you actually do it, it is number one. The only thing I can think of that comes close is parenting. So it's like parenting and overcoming addiction. They're basically neck and neck, depending on, where you're at in parenting process, probably like first year or two, same level of hard. So congratulations. That's amazing. And it is extraordinarily difficult to do. So good for you. You should really be proud. It's a lot of work. And recovery is a tremendous amount of work. And like you see with this Nick Reiner character, right? Like, not everybody does it. A lot of people don't. DFox238 sends $49.99. Wow. Would you consider doing an analysis? Yeah. So I am going to do an analysis. I've been looking for what's out there. I should have mentioned this earlier. I've been looking, trying to find the right stuff, because to Aussie's point earlier, if I don't have enough information, I can't do a correct and proper analysis. Like, I need information. If all I have is like 3 clips that are 3 minutes long, I can't give you anything that's legitimate. I can make extrapolations. I can give you like my knee-jerk overview, but I'm not going to be able to stand by it with any kind of sincerity, because I don't have enough information to work from. So just off the cuff, I can tell you that just because I know he's been such a serious addict, that tells me a lot by itself. I mean, just once you are at that place, addiction is it's the most predictable mental health condition there is, honestly, because it's being driven by a physiological phenomenon that is very predictable. And once that happens, it's essentially the same for everybody. at a very, very high level of certainty. But, again, to be able to do a proper analysis, I would need a lot more information. So as soon as I have enough information to give you, you will have what you are asking for. And I appreciate you asking. I should have said it right away. And thank you so much for your support.
There's also, isn't there also something in America, the gold rule about doing an analysis? If you're a professional, you can't analyze someone.
Well, I can't do like a real psychiatric analysis, if that's what you mean. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, you can't do that analysis because you're in a professional field. But it's a gold rule. Gold something, or I can't remember, but it's written into, I think it might be Supreme case law. The gold, it was a dude, it's his name, and he did a analysis of someone just as commentary, and it got brought into the case, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and they made a ruling on it, and it's based on his name, Gold something.
I don't know.
It came up in the Johnny Depp trial.
Oh, interesting. I'll look into it. Yeah, I mean, I think they're just asking me to do like a deception analysis, not like a not a real psychiatric analysis, just because that's typically what I would do. I will never do a real psychiatric analysis of anyone ever, ever. I can't. I mean, you can't
Unless
do that.
You have them there in person.
Yes. Yeah, I wouldn't, and I would never make that public if I were doing, obviously. No. But I mean, I think people ask me just because they've seen me do other types of analyses that are sort of overviews, or like with the Adelsons and such, just to do kind of an analysis of the psychiatric situation and all that.
There you go. The chat's telling you it's called the Goldwater rule.
Yeah.
See, these guys watch the Johnny Depp trial.
Yeah. So it's funny. I came in late to the Johnny Depp trial. Goldwater.
What's his name?
Goldwater. I know
that was the name of the dude in that case. Yeah.
Yes, I know who Goldwater is.
What was the professor's name that the Goldwater rule came up with? Because he said something like,
yes, I know who Goldwater was.
There you go.
Yes.
The professor was like, oh my God, he was just the weirdest dude. I don't know if you saw him.
No, I don't know anything about the trial. I just know who Goldwater was.
He watched Johnny Depp's movies and analyzed his mental diagnosis. He produced a mental diagnosis based on the characters that Johnny Depp plays in his movies.
Oh.
Spiegel.
Wait a minute.
Thank you, Simon. Says,
wait a minute. So you're saying that somebody who did not know Johnny Depp did some type of psychiatric, like from afar analysis with a diagnostic situation based on his movie selection?
Yeah.
And they brought that into the trial.
He was whack. He was so whack.
That's pretty whack.
Testimony, because he was like lip smacking and doing all this stuff. Like, it was just bizarre.
I mean, do you not understand what an actor means? Like, do you know, if you know a good actor, do you know any? Like, I know some really good actors. Like,
hell yeah, Johnny Depp. He's one of the best on the planet. Like, he can just switch the role.
But I mean, like, I know them, and like the person that they are in the movie is not the person they are in front of you. They're not them. It's an act. They're acting.
Yep.
As like that's the whole point of being an actor.
Johnny as a narcissist abuser.
Oh my God. That's what the doctor didn't know him said?
Dr. Spiegel. Look him up. He's freaking awesome. Like, there's so many
into a trial, by the way, you guys.
There's so many clips of Dr. Spiegel doing his witness testimony, just that tiny bit clipped. So yeah, look him up.
Oh my God, you gotta be kidding me! It's so funny. Wow.
Anyway, the Goldwater rule was brought up because he never met Johnny Depp in person. He didn't assess Johnny Depp as a person.
Right.
He just assessed these movie characters. So.
Correct. That's my point. Yes. Right. Of course, I would never. You can't actually do any type of legitimate psychological evaluation on someone that you don't have in front of you. I mean, it's just not possible, right? Like you can give your based on your experience opinions, and you can give some expertise based on your opinions and experience, but you can't actually say with any 100% certainty, this is my professional opinion of this. You don't know, you don't have them in front of you, right? Of course. But the types of analysis, I am not diagnosing people. I don't even believe in diagnoses, generally speaking. So I wouldn't do that even if I was being asked to do that. Do you know what I'm saying? Even if you came to me and you said, Sam, I think I have a diagnosis, the first thing I would say to you is, well, let me tell you what a diagnosis really is, and then whether or not you want me to continue to give that to you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, diagnosis is a very it's a big discussion too. It's a whole nother discussion, I guess.
Sorry for sidetracking it again.
That's all right. I think it's an important point. I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily know the distinctions, right? People might think that these are all the same thing, and they're absolutely not. I mean, anyway, it's a big discussion, but yeah, people are into self-diagnosing and things like that too. And in the field of psychology, not all psychological diagnoses are the same. Let me just put it that way. So that's a whole other discussion. But anyway, again, if somebody comes to me and they say, I think this will make my life better and move me move the ball forward for me, can you help me? And a diagnosis is in that on the ball field for them, then that can be helpful, but it's not necessary, certainly. So
I think self-diagnosis is part of the process, because that's where you come to making your own decision that you need a diagnosis.
And me.
Or you don't need a diagnosis. Like,
That's
okay,
right.
that's what I am. I don't need it. So
that's right. Can be. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to go through these. Aussie, I want to just say thank you so much for being here with me for so long. You're amazing. And this was so last minute, by the way. We just decided we were going to do it earlier today, which is awesome. So
no show notes, folks. Look, Mum.
Right? Yay. Thank you so much for joining. I so appreciate it. And I'm sure I might come up with some other things to ask you specifically. I'll message you to get the answers if I have them, because I was going back through Welcher today and I was like, there are some little questions, but I think at the end of the day, I think generally what we talked about kind of answers all of them, to be honest. But you never know. There's always more. There's always more evidence.
There's definitely more that you and I need to talk about. I'll step down now, but we do need to have a more in-depth conversation about the other topics that we've been discussing. Did I answer your questions today?
You did.
I know you sent me a message that I missed until
it wasn't. I was just telling you what I was going to ask you. I don't think I was.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
but yes,
I answered them all without going too far off track. So.
Not at all. You were right. You were perfect. And yes, I will be in touch very soon, or try to be back in touch very soon.
All right, so we should have some more to show you guys eventually.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. No, it's huge. There's a lot of good evidence in the world right now. There really is. It's interesting to watch unfold. So I'm very excited. And I will be there, Aussie, to support you also.
Okay, thanks again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Goodbye. Thank you again. Aussie is the best. She's the absolute best. She's just so awesome. I told you, she's like, I don't know. I feel like she completes me in so many ways. I really, really feel that way. Like, just what a gift. That's the thing I got to tell you about this community. And this is what makes me biased. I thought about this the other day. I was like, you know what? Well, maybe this was largely today, because I was trying to think. I was doing some self-analysis, right? Like, I am trying to be honest with myself about my own bias. And I'm saying, obviously, I have a bias because I love this community. Like, what an amazingly talented group of people. Everybody that I have met and that I come into contact with, so talented, just, and when we're all coming together, and I mean everyone, right? Whether it's somebody that I just met when I was across from the courthouse waiting for the jury to come out, right? For the Karen Reed, the second trial, meeting people through my excursion in Canton, Massachusetts, or excursions there. Just everybody I've met in relation in and around this case, all of you are just awesome. And so my bias, because I love this community and I want to continue to be a part of it, nurture it, and watch it grow and see us, succeed, of course. However, if I stumbled upon something and it was like Karen Reed murdered John O'Keefe, there is no bone in my body that would allow me to continue to get on here, make videos, and interact with you like I am right now. I don't have it in me. I don't. You would see it all over my face. You would feel it because it would feel insincere. It would feel not authentic. In fact, you'd probably notice that I'd just be talking about something else all of a sudden, like you'd not hear me mention it ever again. Because if I was going to continue to be in this position at all, I wouldn't be able to sit here and keep doing anything close to what I'm doing now if I didn't believe it in my bones, because that's who I am. Like, I have to believe in what I'm doing in order to do it. That's just how I'm built, right? Holly Johnson, VD6LV, sends 1999, says, thank you for talking about addiction earlier. It is very difficult to watch my other half struggle with alcohol and prescription addiction. Someone take me to his alien leader and give me my beautiful man back. Oh no, Holly, you're making me very sad. This is a sad conversation. This is also why I no longer do, like, I'm in a very happy, loving, and healthy relationship with a man who doesn't have addiction in his bones. And I'm very thankful to that every second. Because I will tell you, the only thing worse than being in addiction, being in an active relationship with drugs and alcohol, is loving somebody else desperately who's in it themselves. It's devastating. It is just so fucking painful. Loving somebody who's in an active addiction is like the worst thing there is, because there's nothing that you can do to stop it. And anything that you do, you run the risk of perpetuating it. And by the way, if any of you are in this situation and you want some help or you want information, please email me. Just put in the subject header addiction. I created an entire online course. It's a resource it's designed for parents of teen and young adult children who are struggling with addiction, but doesn't matter whether it's a lover or a parent or a sibling, doesn't matter. It's about addiction, and it's about how to help somebody you love who has one. It's essentially educational first and foremost. So if you're in this situation and you want help, I will give you access. It's a really helpful resource. I mean, it's really helpful. It's going to school you big time. It's a little painful. I'm petty, so it's a little painful, but it will truly help you. And it is designed not only to give you everything you need to know about what addiction is, everything you need to know about what your loved one is going through. It is also, and I mean everything, biology, physiology, psychology, emotionally, everything you could think of. It will also help you to learn how to help them, because that's what the point of the course is. So if you want me to give you that access, just have to email me, sb@yahoo.com, put in the subject addiction, and I will send you the code. So you can go right into the course and you can have it forever for yourself to learn. Because if you love someone who has an addiction and you want to help them, the problem that if you don't understand, this is one of those ways that, like, you really, if you love someone with an addiction, everything that you do inherently, like everything instinctively that your body, your soul tells you to do to help, is actually not helpful. It's actually probably, if I'm being 100% honest, it's moving the ball the other way. It's actually probably pushing them away from the direction you want them to be moving. Not because you're doing anything maliciously, but because by nature, we want them to stop more than they want to stop. That's the dynamic that cements addiction when you're in a relationship with somebody who has one. So if you want my help, please I beg you, if you're in that situation, you love someone, no matter who they are, who has an addiction problem, and you want help, just have to email me, put in the subject addiction. I will send you all of that information free of charge. Take it, have it, please use it. That's what it's for. It's for help people in your situation. Oh man, retirement. You know, this is crazy. It's Holly Johnson. This is crazy. Like the retirement stuff, you know, the word retirement, I feel like we need to take it out of our vocabulary because it has so much like immediate connection. Oh, I'm just gonna like that's what I picture even, right? I don't even drink, and I picture like myself on like a beach with a martini and a little like, you know, the little umbrella glass. That's what retirement means. It means like I'm chilling, right? I'm not having to do things I don't want to do anymore. I'm getting to do what I want to do all the time. And so I imagine the combination of like not having the structure of like your life every day, not having your camaraderie from coworkers or colleagues, right? Not having to do anything, not being needed anymore. There's so many things. Also, there's a psychological like I'm retirement means I'm like old and dying, right? I mean, not I'm putting words in your mouth, but these are the kinds of things that I've seen happen to folks who I've worked with when they were entering retirement and they had substance abuse issues. I've worked with people who did not start to develop their addictions until they were after 70, older than 70 years old, because they waited until their retirement, and retirement like ruined their lives. They were just lost after that. So I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but like I said, if you need help, you want help, please ask for it, because I have tons of information, you guys. If you want help, I've got it. I'm like a walking freaking encyclopedia. That's one of the things like Aussie and I were talking about. I'm not Asperger's, but I am very obsessive. And if I have a topic that I care about, I am going to go all in, and I'm going to milk that topic until I know everything there is to know about it. That's how I am. That's how my father is. That's just how I'm built. And addiction was one of those topics for me. So anything that I know that I can help you with, because I know it, I will absolutely do that. I promise. If I can, I will. 100%. Of course. Absolutely. And I love talking to other therapists. We don't get to do it enough, right? When therapists get together and chat, it's like the coolest, most fun exercise ever, because we get to talk about things that we don't get to talk about with anybody else in our lives, because nobody else cares about the same things like we do, right? It's awesome. So thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. Like I said, any way that I can help you guys. I know addiction in particular is a topic that people are very, very interested in. And and for me, I kind of feel like I'm going the other way with it. I spent my entire young life and career, that was what I was so interested in. It was what I cared so much about. It's what I wanted to know, everything I could ever know about it. And so because of that, now that I'm older and I'm sort of drifted into other topics that are not necessarily this one, it's just not as exciting for me to talk about. So I'm always happy to do it. I'm happy to give that information to all of you, however much I can, because that's, it's why we learn, so I can give it away, right? That's what it's all about as a therapist. So any way that I can be helpful to you, I will be. Please do not hesitate. If you want that information, please ask me for it. You guys, interesting. I see people asking about trauma. Oh, there's so much. We really do. We really have we have a mental health crisis that is so much bigger than I think most of us understand. Like, I really understand. This is so true. I know that when I say it's a mental health crisis, it's a bigger crisis than anybody has any knowledge or awareness of, right? Like most people, they just don't even think like happiness is an option. Like they really don't. That's all self-imposed limitation. Anything that you think you have to do for any reason, that's a self-imposed limitation. I know you're going to say, Sam, you're crazy. What do you mean? We all have to do things that we don't want to do. Okay, a little bit, because we have to learn, and there's no other way. Humans, we got to learn. we don't, like, humans don't read books and just like get it. We don't. We're designed to learn through pain and suffering. That's what we respond to when we're like, oh, that stove is hot. Mom said, stop. She meant it. I'm not going to do that anymore because now my hand hurts. That's the moment where, like, oh, mom said don't touch it because it's hot. Now I get it. Takes a while, right? And we have to get burned many, many times before we find our way. But in my experience, now after many, many years on this planet, helping lots of other people, I now finally get that limitations are self-imposed. They really, really are. So, you know, most of us don't realize that we create prisons that we end up living in, and we don't even know it. So the problem, the mental health crisis that we think we have, you can basically exponentiate that by 200 million. And that's like, we have a bigger mental health crisis than there are people on the planet, in my mind. So it's bad. It's big. It's a really serious problem. So anything I can do to help make life a little bit easier for anyone, I'm here to help. I will do whatever I can to do that. Thank you so much for those of you gifting memberships. Amazing. Berta S13, you are incredible. I thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. That is awesome. You guys are amazing. You really are, like, the best. Okay. I would stay here with you guys for like another hour and just talk about this, but I really have to go. And the reason I have to go is because I have to get up very early tomorrow. And the last 2 weeks that I was like, no, I'm just going to keep going because I love talking to you guys. I got so screwed and ended up sick again on the other side. Because here in New York, there's like a mean virus or something going around that I think I've had the same virus twice, like on 2 rotations. I like got over it before Thanksgiving, then I got it again. Then I got over it, and then my daughter brought it home from school, and so I feel okay. I'm still not 100%, but I need sleep or I'm done for going into Christmas. So I probably am not going to see you because next Wednesday is Christmas Eve, which I can't even believe. So the next time I'm going to be with you guys, it is going to be probably like right around New Year's. Oh my God, amazing. And Denise, you're the greatest ever. Denise, I also want to just say to you, I don't know what I did to deserve Denise as a moderator, but Denise, you are like the greatest human the world could have ever bestowed upon me. I love you. I think you're amazing. And again, ever I can do anything to advance your life in any way, please call upon me to do it because I am here to help you however I can. Oh, you're the best. All right, you guys, everyone, have a beautiful rest of your holiday. Happy Hanukkah and Merry, Merry, Merry Christmas to all of you who are celebrating. And I'm going to see you before New Year's because we're going to have to do a New Year's show. That's what we're doing. We're going to do a New Year's show. It's going to be interesting and lots of fun. So I'll be ready for that. I hope to see all of you there. You guys enjoy the rest of your holiday, and I will see you all, oh my God, on the other side. I can't even believe it. I can't even believe it's going to be like almost 2026. Like, what? What does that even mean? Oh my God. Everybody, Merry Christmas, and I will see you just before the New Year. Just before the New Year.
It is the defense counselor's duty to protect the rights of the individual, as it is the prosecution's duty to uphold and defend the laws of the state. Justice for all. Only we have a problem here.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through eyes covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.